Chapter 719. With others around, Li Qianxue's expression was restrained, but the anger in her heart was very strong. At this age, she was also very good at hiding her thoughts. She stood up gently with a glass of red wine in her hand. Although my alcohol tolerance is low, it doesn't matter if I drink a few glasses. As she spoke, she looked at Su Qinghui with a hidden sharpness in her eyes. It's just a few glasses, and we're all acquaintances. It doesn't matter. Holding back from saying more unpleasant and sharp words, she first toasted Li Junxing. Mayor Li, let me toast you. In the past 2 years, Mayor Li has been young and promising in Lin City. Our Li Corporation has been under your care. Auntie, you're welcome. This was Hu Jiniao's mother-in-law. Li Junxing didn't dare to be arrogant, so he picked up the wine and drank it in one gulp. Li Qianxue's glass was also empty. She poured another glass and toasted Wang Tao first. Then, Chief Chen and Chief Gao. Each of them had a glass of wine, but they only drank 4 glasses. Su Qinghui wanted to stop them several times, but the situation in front of him was beyond his control. Unexpectedly, in the end, Li Qianxue poured another glass of wine and toasted him. This glass of wine, I toast you. Su Qinghui looked at Li Qianxue. Ever since the divorce, Li Qianxue's eyes were filled with disgust and hatred. How could he have expected that she would toast him? She drank a few glasses, and her face was a little red. In addition to the calmness brought about by age, Su Qinghui felt his heart beat faster. Qianxue. Let me toast you. Thank you for all these years, for your care for your children and for taking care of me. The last 2 sentences were said slowly and methodically. Those words made Su Qinghui's expression change slightly. Li Qianxue picked up the wine and drank it in one gulp. Only then did she sit down again, pick up the dishes in front of her, and eat casually with her chopsticks. The dinner continued. With Chief Chen and Chief Gao around, the atmosphere was naturally good. At first, the 2 of them went for Li Junxing. Later, they found that Li Junxing's attitude toward Li Qianxue and Su Qinghui was very congratulatory, so they toasted the 2 of them again. Li Qianxue originally didn't drink, but in order to compete with Su Qinghui, she drank a few glasses. This time, she didn't refuse and drank another round. After drinking for 30 minutes, Li Qianxue was already tipsy. Her alcohol tolerance wasn't bad, but today she was drinking in a fit of pique and on an empty stomach. After a while, it was inevitable that she would get drunk. On the other end, Director Qin was extremely tactless. He had no intention of ending it at all. On the other end, Li Qianxue was already a little intoxicated, and her eyes were red. Su Qinghui looked at her and stood up. Mayor Li, Qianxue is drunk. I'll take her back first. Hearing that, Li Qianxue stood up and wanted to say that she wasn't drunk. His legs went soft, and he almost fell back down. Su Qinghui quickly held her up and didn't let her sit down. I'm not drunk. She was just a little drunk. Li Qianxue looked at Su Qinghui with red eyes. I'm not leaving. Normally, she would not allow herself to lose control like this. First of all, she drank wine today. Second, Su Qinghui was there. She always felt that she could not suppress the trace of madness in her heart. She grabbed Su Qinghui with both hands and was about to lose her temper. Qianxue. Su Qinghui held her hand. After being married for so many years, he roughly knew what she looked like when she was angry. Over the years, there weren't many things that could make her angry, but he knew. You're drunk. Dad will worry about you. Let's go back first. His voice was very soft, as if he was coaxing a little girl. Li Qianxue blinked and looked at Su Qinghui. Time passed, and for a moment, she thought she saw that man again. When he first entered the company, his performance had amazed her. From then on, her heart was secretly in love with him, and it was out of control. Su Qinghui. Yes, let's go home first. As he spoke, he glanced at Li Junxing with an apologetic expression. Mayor Li, since Auntie is drunk, hurry up and take Auntie back. Li Junxing didn't dare to ask Hua Jinyao's mother-in-law to stay and drink with them. He waved his hand and signaled for them to leave first. Su Qinghui supported Li Qianxue and left. Li Junxing was fine, but Wang Tao couldn't help but click his tongue. I really didn't expect that at this age, if feelings were good, they would be even more affectionate than young people. Wang Tao had never seen Su Qinghui's expression when he was talking to his girlfriend, not even when they were passionately in love. Yes. Chief Chen nodded. Their relationship is really good. Yes. Their relationship is really good. Li Junxing added a comment. It could be considered a conclusion. Li Qianxue, who was outside, had no idea that she and Su Qinghui had been misunderstood. She was drunk now, and her legs were a little weak. Su Qinghui had also drunk, so it was naturally not good for him to drive. So when Xiao Zhao drove the car over, he helped Li Qianxue into the car. Sir. After being in the Li family for a long time, he naturally knew Su Qinghui's identity. Let's go. Let's go back. Su Qinghui was worried about Li Qianxue, so he had to follow. Xiao Zhao didn't say much and drove quietly. Li Qianxue became more and more dizzy as she walked. She frowned as if she was feeling uncomfortable. Although her alcohol tolerance wasn't bad, she rarely drank in the past few years. Not to mention that they were drinking white wine just now. Su Qinghui smelled the alcohol on her. He wanted to pour her a glass of water, but when he thought that the water in the car was cold, he could only forget it. There was still some distance from the Li family. Su Qinghui saw her frown, so he reached out and placed his hand on her forehead, gently pressing it for her. Su Qinghui's mother was a nurse. Back then, Su Qinghui often went to the hospital with her. Sometimes, he watched his mother nurse the patients and learned a few tricks. It was just that he couldn't find anyone to practice with. Su Qingsang had been obsessed with learning medicine back then. He couldn't help but think that perhaps it was a transgenerational inheritance. Li Qianxue was indeed uncomfortable. Being pressed by Su Qinghui like this, she relaxed a lot. Her brows weren't so tightly knitted. Xiao Tao, be gentle. She thought that he was a servant at home, so she wasn't polite at all when she ordered him around. Su Qinghui didn't correct her, nor did he speak. He pressed on her head. Li Qianxue was a little drowsy from his pressure. When the car stopped at the Li family's house, she had already closed her eyes. Sir. Xiao Zhao turned around and looked at Su Qinghui. He shook his head. I'll send her in. Because she had been working out for a long time, Li Qianxue wasn't heavy, so Su Qinghui didn't have much trouble carrying her. When he entered the door, he found that old Master Li wasn't there. He carried Li Qianxue upstairs with familiarity. He put her down on the bed and asked Xiao Tao to go to the kitchen to prepare a bowl of hangover tea. He usually had a lot of social engagements, so the Li family's kitchen always had hangover tea. The tea was quickly served. Li Qianxue was drunk and wasn't willing to drink it. Qianxue. Su Qinghui's voice was extremely gentle. Come, drink. Wine. Li Qianxue blinked her eyes, as if she had finally listened to him at this moment, and opened her mouth as he wished. After drinking more than half of the bowl of tea, Li Qianxue refused to drink it. It tastes bad. Su Qinghui didn't force her. He saw that her eyes were tightly closed, as if she was uncomfortable because of the wine, or because she was really drunk. Seeing that she had lost consciousness, he put her back on the bed and took off her coat and shoes. Su Qinghui's gaze swept over her body, and for a moment, he was conflicted. Should he take off her clothes for her? This thought made him feel like he was taking advantage of her. You were once husband and wife, Su Qinghui said in his heart. However, he didn't do anything further. Instead, he just sat by the bed and looked at Li Qianxue. She had always been a good drinker. Even if she was drunk, she would just sleep quietly. Li Qianxue was a very particular person. It would definitely be uncomfortable for her to sleep with her clothes on. Su Qinghui struggled for about a minute and finally chose to help Li Qianxue take off her clothes. His movements were very gentle. The two of them had been married for many years, but this was the first time he had helped her take off her clothes. The previous 2 times, he had been drunk. He really couldn't remember how he had done it. Li Qianxue had a good figure. She paid attention to her health and took good care of herself. She was slightly thin, and her clothes were all the smallest size. Having 2 children didn't affect her much. Her skin, which was taken care of regularly at the beauty salon every week, was as smooth as snow. Su Qinghui unexpectedly felt a little thirsty. Living a nearly pure life for more than 20 years didn't mean that he didn't have desires, but he just didn't put his mind to them. He had done many things over the years, such as changing the identities of Su Qingsang and Su Peijian. For example, because of the trace of awkwardness in his heart, he couldn't face Li Qianxue properly. However, this did not mean that he could really become a Lixiaoyi, to the point where he could become a monk. Her clothes gradually fell, and her covered body fell into his eyes. His breathing gradually became heavier. When his hand was placed on the buckle behind her, his forehead was sweating. As he unbuttoned the buckle, the sweat on his forehead almost dripped down. After staring at the beautiful scenery for a while, he closed his eyes and untied the restraints for her. Then, using his strongest self-control, he pulled the quilt up and covered her body. He sat on the edge of the bed and panted heavily. His gaze fell on Li Qianxue's face. Her breathing was long, and she seemed to be really asleep. He looked at her face, and his hand gently raised, stroking her cheek. Such peaceful moments were very rare for both him and her. Most of the time, the atmosphere between them wasn't very good. No, there were also times when it eased up. At that time, Su Peijian was gradually growing up. For the first time, he and Li Qianxue's educational philosophy had diverged. He wanted his daughter to be happy, but Li Qianxue had trained Su Peijian according to the standards of an heir. At the age of 4, she began to hire someone to teach Su Peijian how to play the piano. At the age of 5, she hired a home tutor to teach her lessons. He hoped that Su Peijian could have the happiness of an ordinary person, but Li Qianxue felt that as the heir of the Li family, these were all things she had to learn. In the end, he and Li Qianxue kept arguing, and finally, Li Qianxue gave in. She agreed to reduce some of Su Peijian's homework, but the time schedule had to be arranged according to her. According to Li Qianxue's idea, Su Peijian didn't even need to go to kindergarten. After all, she was much smarter than those people. Su Qinghui objected, and the two of them kept mediating before finally reaching an agreement. After Su Peijian went to kindergarten, she was much happier than at home. It was also at that time that he started to treat Li Qianxue well. He thought that maybe this was it for the rest of his life. He and Li Qianxue guarded Su Peijian, and just like that, they spent the rest of their lives together. During that time, he started to treat her well, and when she saw the happiness on Su Peijian's face, she finally stopped being stubborn. During that period of time, he had been convincing himself to spend the rest of his life with Li Qianxue. That was also good. Even if she couldn't be on the same level as him, at least, they worked well together in business. At that time, the Li Corporation completed several projects quite well, and he became famous in the Li Corporation. As more and more people worked under him, he and Li Qianxue got along more and more. After the first few years of working together, the two of them had an extraordinary tacit understanding. Sometimes, when they encountered a particularly difficult case, the two of them would think of a solution together. Occasionally, when they encountered a very difficult client, the two of them would go out together. He and Li Qianxue played the good cop and the bad cop. They could always fight for the greatest benefits for the group. Su Qinghui admired Li Qianxue very much. However, he wouldn't say it out loud. He felt that it was an established fact that he didn't like her. He couldn't see what he was like when he was with her, and he couldn't imagine what he would be like if he lost Li Qianxue. At that time, he actually fell into a mental barrier. Emotions and reason conflicted. On the one hand, he knew that his appreciation for Li Qianxue was definitely not just for work. On the other hand, he was very conflicted. He felt that the more he appreciated Li Qianxue, the more he betrayed Xiang Kaiping. The repeated conflict made his attitude toward Li Qianxue always be lukewarm. His relationship with Li Qianxue was difficult to break. He occasionally peeped into the hidden thoughts in his heart, but it only made him more conflicted. A beauty like Li Qianxue slept in the same bed with him every day. How could he really be indifferent? But the more he desired, the more he despised himself. He wasn't competing with Li Qianxue. Instead, he seemed to be competing with himself. He was afraid that once he took that step, he would lose. He couldn't lose. He was young and frivolous and didn't understand love. He didn't know how ridiculous his contradictions and entanglements were. Looking back at it now, what was self-esteem? So what if he was proud? Those missed times could never be looked back. The regret had been caused, and he couldn't take it back. In fact, at that time, he also thought about it in extreme contradiction. Since he couldn't divorce Li Qianxue, and it was impossible to separate, then so be it. Su Qinghui made up his mind to live a good life with Li Qianxue. However, he didn't expect that the accident would come so quickly. Su Qinghui's mother, Jiang Mei, was a nurse. She used to work in the same hospital as Xiang Caiping's mother. In the second half of the year when Su Peixian was 7 years old, Jiang Mei fell ill. She was seriously ill. She knew in her heart that Li Qianxue loved her son very much. She also knew that Su Qinghui and Li Qianxue were considered to be of higher status than the Su family. Therefore, she and her husband had been living in their original bungalow. They didn't want to take advantage of the Li family. The two of them also loved Su Peixian, their granddaughter, very much, but that didn't mean that they didn't feel guilty. Xiang Kaiping was alone. After her parents died, she stayed with them. But they didn't take good care of her, and now they didn't even know where she was. The elders of the Su family didn't know that Su Qinghui had switched children. They had seen Su Qingsang a few times in private. They doted on this child, but they were afraid that if they were too close, Li Qianxue would dislike them. In particular, Su Qinghui was afraid that the secret would be exposed, so he didn't want his parents to be too close to Su Qingsang. A huge psychological pressure was on the two old people. Especially Jiang Mei, who always felt that she had let down Xiang Caiping's mother and Xiang Kaiping. After she fell ill that year, she made a request to Su Qinghui, asking him to find a way to find Xiang Kaiping. If you can, be better to that child. Kaiping has suffered too much. That child has suffered too much. Qinghui, I know you are a good child, but our family has let Kaiping down. Just promise me, okay? When his mother held his hand and asked him to find Xiang Kaiping and not mistreat Su Qingsang, Su Qinghui's heart suddenly felt sad. How could he not feel that he had let Xiang Kaiping down? Another woman had to pay for his mistake, and Su Qingsang as well. He was not really cold-blooded, nor was he really heartless. In the middle of the night, he had also regretted his choice. However, on one hand, there was the secret that could not be told, and on the other hand, there was his regret that could not be seen by others. He was in a dilemma, but he chose to ignore it. It was not until Jiang Mei passed away that the conflict in his heart reached its peak. His mother wanted him to find Xiang Kaiping, but he did not do it. His mother was so concerned about his and Xiang Caiping's child that he could not even let her recognize her. Not long after Jiang Mei's death, Su Qinghui's father also passed away unexpectedly. Su Qinghui, who had lost his parents one after another, was very depressed. Especially when the doctor said that he was too worried, it made him feel more and more guilty. If only he had not given up on Xiang Kaiping. If only he had not let Xiang Kaiping go. These two thoughts alternated, making the feelings he had for Li Qianxue disappear without a trace. The guilt accumulated deeper and deeper. Finally, one night, when he was drunk, he used the stench of alcohol to act like a drunkard. He once again had Li Qianxue, and he also felt that he was very ridiculous. Very ridiculous. What he wanted to do was to stay away from her, but he wanted to get close. If he wanted to get close, he had to use the effect of alcohol. At that time, how ridiculous and cowardly was he? When he woke up the next day, before Li Qianxue could say anything, he put the blame on her. Yesterday was just an accident. I was drunk. Don't worry, I don't love you. Even if I have sex with you, I won't love you. Li Qianxue, I really hate me like this. He actually couldn't remember what else he said after that. Anyway, it would not be good words. No, it should be said that when he faced Li Qianxue, he did not say many good words. Not a single one. That was the simplest. What happened after that? How did the two of them get to where they were today? Li Qianxue had 2 children with him. Both of them were accidents. He did not expect Li Qianxue to get pregnant so easily. It was just one night, but she was pregnant again. Su Qinghui, who knew this, did not feel the slightest joy. His heart was full of guilt and self-blame. He had betrayed Xiang Kaiping once, and now he had betrayed Xiang Kaiping for the second time. Su Peijian, he could still make up for some of his guilt towards Xiang Kaiping by changing her identity. But what about the one in Li Qianxue's stomach? He couldn't think of it, and he didn't know what else he could do now that things had developed to this point. He was conflicted. He did something that even he despised. During that period of time, just like now, his relationship with Li Qianxue had dropped to the freezing point. And when Li Qianxue was pregnant with Su Yusin, he did not pay any attention to his conflicted thoughts from beginning to end. For him, the previous child was not what he was looking forward to, and this child was even more so not. Later, Su Qinghui closed his eyes and suppressed the bitterness that flashed through them. There were some things that he did not want to recall, not at all. But now he realized that those memories were so clear. It was so clear as if it had just happened yesterday. And the regret in his heart could no longer be eliminated. Looking at Li Qianxue, who was sleeping soundly, he held her hand and placed it on his face. How casual and unscrupulous he had been in the past, how much he regretted it now. If they had not done those things, they might still have a chance to do it again. But now, Su Qingsang and Su Peijian's background had been exposed, and his secret could no longer be hidden in front of her. Li Qianxue completely understood his despicable and selfish behavior in the past. Now that he thought about it carefully, he felt that he was unforgivable. What face did he have, and what right did he have to ask Li Qianxue to forgive him? Su Qinghui couldn't think of it. Looking at Li Qianxue's sleeping face, he tried very hard to control himself. In the end, he silently lay down beside her and stared straight at her. He wanted to sleep, but he didn't dare to. This rare opportunity to get close to her seemed especially precious after Li Qianxue was drunk. He stared at Li Qianxue like this until sleepiness hit him. With the effect of alcohol, he fell asleep. When Li Qianxue woke up, her head didn't hurt very much. She didn't know that someone had massaged her head for a long time yesterday, which made her body a lot lighter today. Shout out. Li Qianxue closed her eyes and called out. She realized that her voice was a little hoarse. Not only was it hoarse, but her head also hurt a little. Pour me a glass of water. She called out, but no one answered. She reached out to touch the button by the bedside and waited for Xiao Tao to come up. However, she didn't touch the button, but she touched a warm body. Li Qianxue's hand touched it and even touched it left and right. Was this a chest? A flat, strong man's chest. Why was there a man's chest in her room? Li Qianxue woke up almost instantly. She sat up and widened her eyes. She saw that it was on the other side of the bed. Su Qinghui was lying on his side, his eyes tightly closed. Seeing Su Qinghui, Li Qianxue's entire body stiffened. Her mind spun quickly, and she began to recall what happened yesterday. Needless to say, she drank some wine last night. That wine made her drunk. Then what? Su Qinghui took the opportunity to send her home and then went to her bed. She lowered her head and looked at her body. Other than the underwear below, she was almost naked. Su Qinghui must have taken off her clothes. There was no doubt. Her body didn't have any discomfort, and it wasn't like the previous 2 times, which made her a little uncomfortable. In other words, Su Qinghui didn't really do anything to her. However, even if he didn't do anything to her, he probably did a lot of things that he shouldn't have, right? Chapter 720. Li Qianxue glared at Su Qinghui with unfriendly eyes. Looking at Su Qinghui, the man who had ruined most of her life, she had tried her best to avoid him, but in the end, she found that there was no way to avoid him. The two of them had the same child and common interests. It was almost impossible not to see Su Qinghui. But this didn't mean that she had to accept Su Qinghui. She lifted her foot and kicked at Su Qinghui, who was still sleeping. In the past, Li Qianxue would never do such a rude action, but now she was too angry. But she had just woken up and drank a lot yesterday. This kick really didn't have much strength, and it didn't kick Su Qinghui off the bed at all. Su Qinghui opened his eyes and saw Li Qianxue glaring at him with an angry face. She had been stripped naked by him yesterday, and even the quilt couldn't cover her body. She was so angry that she forgot to cover herself. Qianxue. The familiar environment, the familiar aura, and the familiar person. For a moment, Su Qinghui thought that they hadn't divorced yet and that they were still in their previous marriage. Su Qinghui. Li Qianxue looked at him with a cold face. She was very dissatisfied with his shameless behavior yesterday. I really didn't know that after the divorce, your skin became so thick. Su Qinghui sat up. Li Qianxue's words quickly reminded him of everything that happened last night. Qianxue, you didn't what? Li Qianxue sneered. You didn't sleep with me. Or you didn't take advantage of me. He really didn't do that with her, but taking advantage of her, taking off her clothes and seeing her naked shouldn't count, right? Before Su Qinghui could explain, Li Qianxue had already slapped him in the face. She had just woken up, so she didn't use much strength. However, the slap still made Su Qinghui's face turn to the side. Qianxue, another slap. This time, it was the other side of his face that was slapped. Su Qinghui was slapped twice in a row. He didn't explain and just looked at Li Qianxue. Li Qianxue didn't realize what she had done in anger until she finished slapping him. Her slightly numb palm was still hanging in the air. She retracted her hand and stepped back a little. The anger in her heart was released a little because of the slap, but it did not dissipate. Especially when he saw his current situation. Su Qinghui didn't defend himself, didn't dodge, and let her hit him, which made her unable to vent her anger. She looked at him, turned around, and got out of bed. Yesterday, Su Qinghui had taken off her shoes and put them on the other side of the bed. There was a carpet in the room, and she was too lazy to wear shoes, so she just stepped on it. Su Qinghui stood up and held her hand. Chen Xue. Let me go. Su Qinghui looked at her face and said very seriously, Chen Xue, I didn't take advantage of you, nor did I do anything to you. Li Qianxue turned to look at him. There were 2 faint handprints on his face. She didn't have much strength, so she believed that it would disappear after a while. You didn't take advantage of me. Are you trying to tell me that Xiao Tao was the one who helped me take off my clothes? Su Qinghui was speechless and shook his head gently. I took off your clothes. But I really didn't, nothing. Li Qianxue just stood there. Even if Su Qinghui didn't want to, he had seen it clearly. He looked up and forced himself to focus on her face. Qianxue, you know, Li Qianxue had been lying in the same bed with Su Qinghui all these years, and she had already given birth to 2 children. At such an age, it was difficult for her to be shy like a little girl. She felt angry because she hated Su Qinghui. Anything that had to do with him was enough to make her angry. This kind of emotion was very intense, and it was not something she couldn't control. Su Qinghui, do you think I'm especially cheap? Chen Xue. I said, I didn't. Su Qinghui, do you think that because I used to love you, I would forgive you no matter what you say or do? Do you think that after so many years, I couldn't get what I wanted from you? So when you were willing to love me, when you were willing to be with me, I had to be grateful. I had to immediately wash myself clean and agree to your request to start over. I didn't think so. Su Qinghui wanted to explain, but Li Qianxue didn't listen at all. 27 years, right? 27 years, I couldn't make you fall in love with me. I didn't make you fall in love with me. In the end, after we divorced, you said that you fell in love with me. Do you think I would believe you? Su Qinghui, do you think I'm especially stupid? Su Qinghui's lips moved, and Li Qianxue withdrew her hand. Actually, I really don't want to say these things. It's boring, you know. It's over, and it's impossible. It's not that you're good to me, and it's not that you can always work hard. I've worked hard, and I've been good to you. But my hard work didn't yield results, and I didn't even have a good result. Now do you think your hard work is useful? I didn't think so. Su Qinghui finally had a chance to speak. I've said it before. Even if you don't forgive me for the rest of your life, even if you continue to hate me for the rest of your life, I don't mind. Because I owe you this. I just want to be by your side as much as possible. I want to do something for you within my power. Don't you understand? To me, the so-called within my power is for you to stay away from me. The further, the better. That way, I'll even thank you. Chen Xue. Su Qinghui smiled bitterly. Of all the conditions, this was the only one that he couldn't agree to. Su Qinghui. I'll say it again. Every time you appear, you remind me of my stupidity and blindness. Also, remind me of the mistakes I've made. Do you understand? You're not wrong. I'm the one who's wrong. Seeing Li Qianxue like this made Su Qinghui's heart ache. He took a step forward and wanted to say something, but Li Qianxue raised her hand. She took a step back. No, you're not wrong. I'm the one who's wrong. At this time, her clothes were clearly disheveled, but the emotions in her eyes were sad. The biggest mistake in my life is that I shouldn't have fallen in love with you. Su Qinghui's body trembled, and he couldn't say anything else. I've already paid a huge price for this mistake. So I've fixed this mistake now. Su Qinghui, I beg you. I've already put my life on the right track. Please stay away from me and let me walk on my own path of life, okay? After saying this, she went straight into the bathroom. Su Qinghui was left sitting there, his face pale. Perhaps what she said that day had some effect. In the next few days, Li Qianxue didn't see Su Qinghui again. This made her somewhat relieved. However, before she could completely relax, Wei Ting came. During this period of time, Wei Ting hadn't come to look for her, but there were quite a few calls. She knew that Wei Ting had gone on a business trip. His company was developing well. She could often see news about their company in the financial section. Although he didn't come to look for her, his phone calls and messages had never stopped. Dear Qianxue, I'm back. Wei Ting entered her office like a child, holding a large bouquet of perfumed lilies in his hand. Flowers for the beauty. He placed the bouquet of flowers in front of Li Qianxue, but she didn't take it. I don't think I said I had time to see you. But, you didn't say you weren't free. As Wei Ting spoke, he placed the bouquet of flowers on her desk. Li Qianxue wanted him to take the flowers away, but he raised his hands at this moment. I haven't seen you for so long. Don't you miss me? I don't. You really know how to hurt my heart. Since you don't miss me, then I must do something to make you miss me. Li Qianxue looked at him in confusion. Wei Ting waved his hands in front of Li Qianxue. 1, 2, 3, change. She didn't know how he did it, but with a turn of his hand, an exquisite box appeared in his hand. He placed the box in front of her. A gift for you. Wei Ting. Li Qianxue looked at the logo on the velvet box. She knew this brand. It was a relatively niche jewelry brand. Although it was a niche brand, every accessory was not cheap. Open it and see if you like it. Wei Ting ignored her rejection. He saw that Li Qianxue had no intention of opening it. He took the initiative to open the box. I chose it for a long time, and then I thought it suited you very well. Even if you don't like it, you should take a look at it for the sake of me coming all the way home to bring you a gift, right? The box opened, revealing the jewelry inside. It was a very simple earring with 2 snowflakes. It was extremely small. It was inlaid with broken diamonds, low-key and unique. Li Qianxue had a lot of jewelry. As the president of the Li family, not to mention the jewelry she used every time she went out to decorate her appearance. She received it on her birthday, and there was a special room at home to store her jewelry. However, looking at this gift and then at Wei Ting, she was more or less touched by his kindness. Thank you. As long as you like it. Wei Ting picked up the pair of earrings and looked at Li Qianxue's earlobes. Can I help you put it on? No need. Li Qianxue subconsciously refused, but Wei Ting walked around the desk, picked up one of them, and stood beside Li Qianxue. Whether it looks good or not, you'll only know after you put it on. Wei Ting said so. Li Qianxue didn't have time to refuse. He bent down and carefully put the pair of earrings on her. Li Qianxue was a little uncomfortable, but she couldn't avoid his hand. It's done. Wei Ting put it on, but he didn't retreat to the other side of the desk. Instead, he turned Li Qianxue's chair around, put his hands on both sides of the chair, and stared at her face. Qianxue. It's very beautiful. It suits you very well. Thank you. Li Qianxue didn't show much surprise at his praise. Her gaze swept across his hands on both sides of the armrest. Can you let go first? No. Wei Ting lowered his body and looked at her. Qianxue, I like you. You know that, right? Wei Ting, although I know it's a little shameless to say this, I still have to say it. Qianxue, can you give me a chance to pursue you? His gaze was very serious. Li Qianxue wanted to refuse, but Wei Ting placed a finger on her lips. During my business trip, I went to many places and negotiated several contracts. If it was in the past, I would feel very accomplished and happy. But this time, my sense of accomplishment is very low, and my happiness is even lower. He moved his face forward a little. Do you know why? He didn't need Li Qianxue's answer. He just wanted to tell her, because I don't have you, and I miss you very much. Wei Ting, for someone who was so much younger than her, Li Qianxue almost wanted to treat him as someone from the younger generation. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't touched when he said such words in front of her. But because she was touched, she knew that it was only because she was touched, not love. She grabbed his hand. Her tone was very soft, but her attitude was very firm. You will meet better women in the future. Maybe. Wei Ting nodded. But those women aren't you. Wei Ting, don't be like this. Qianxue, I know your concerns, and I understand your thoughts. Can I take a step back now? Give me a chance, let me pursue you. If you really can't fall in love with me in the end, I promise not to pester you. How about that? President Wei wasn't bad looking. He could even be said to be handsome. He had a pair of very beautiful eyes. When he stared at someone like this, one could see his own shadow in them. It was really difficult for Li Qianxue to reject Wei Ting like this. But it was only very difficult. Since you know that there's no result, why waste time? She really didn't want to hurt him, but there were some things that she knew better than him. I won't love you, I never will. No matter how long you pursue me, it'll be the same. You won't love me because of Su Qinghui. What's so good about him? He's older than me, and I believe that his physical strength isn't as good as mine. Also, he has already divorced you. Li Qianxue heard his words, and at this moment, she unexpectedly wanted to laugh. Su Qinghui was indeed older than Wei Ting, but she knew that his physical strength was definitely not bad. She knew it from watching him play with her that day. On the surface, they didn't win or lose, but she knew that Su Qinghui didn't use his full strength. She didn't know how Su Qinghui would react if he found out that he was called old one day. His expression would definitely be very good. Realizing that she was actually distracted, Wei Ting's expression suddenly became aggrieved. Qianxue. Did I say something wrong? Wei Ting. Li Qianxue looked at him as if she was looking at a child. You're right. I did divorce him. But it's precisely because I'm already divorced that I'm not afraid to tell you. I'm old, tired, and can't love anymore. You're still young. You're different from me. You have a chance to love a younger and more beautiful girl. I'm not suitable for you. I don't want a younger and more beautiful girl. As Wei Ting spoke, he hugged Li Qianxue and pressed his face against her shoulder. I only want you. But I don't want you. Li Qianxue didn't push him away. She just patted his back. Don't say that you're willing to wait for me. It's very tiring to give for a long time but not get anything in return. If it's too long, you won't be able to stand it. I won't. Wei Ting, my life experience tells me. Don't be too full of yourself. Don't be too extreme, and don't be too full of yourself. These words were actually said by Old Master Li. She didn't understand it before, but later she realized that these words really made sense. My life experience tells me that if I want it, I have to fight for it. No matter what the result is, at least I won't regret it. As expected of a young man, he could say such irresponsible words. Pushing him away, Li Qianxue stood up from the chair. I've accepted the gift, and I've also accepted the flowers. I thank you. But I still have work to do now, so please leave first, Mr. Wei. After all, if you don't leave, it'll be my turn to regret it. Chen Xue. I really have something to do. Can you leave now? You've accepted my gift and my flowers. Can you have a meal with me? Not today. She had a lot of work to do. Although she wasn't in a hurry, it was Yusin's birthday next week. In the past, no matter where she was, no matter how busy she was, she would accompany the two children to celebrate their birthdays. She would hold a party for the two children's birthdays every year. This year, Yusin was studying outside. He was studying for 2 degrees at the same time. She didn't want him to be too tired, so she decided to fly to the imperial capital to visit him. However, she didn't want to tell Wei Ting about this because she really didn't want Wei Ting to follow her on a whim. Chen Xue. Wei Ting was really aggrieved. After all, you just won't give me a chance. Yes, I just won't give you a chance, so don't waste your time on me. As soon as Wei Ting got off the plane today, he ran to Li Qianxue excitedly. He didn't expect this to be the result. No matter what, he was still a man. At this moment, he felt a little embarrassed. He looked at Li Qianxue for a long time, then finally turned around and quickly left. Li Qianxue shook her head after he left. Young people were young people. Their emotions were reflected on their faces. If they were happy, they would smile. If they were unhappy, they would have a cold face. It was good to be young. In the North District, everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. The approval process was surprisingly smooth because of Director Chen and Li Junxing. For such a large project, the commencement ceremony had to be held on a good day. Li Qianxue didn't interfere too much with these matters. Yang Rong brought over a few dates that had been calculated by the Tianyu Group and Su Qinghui's company. One of them was set by the Tianyu Group, and it happened to be 2 days before Su Yusin's birthday. Li Qianxue crossed off this date. She chose a week after Su Yusin's birthday to carry out the groundbreaking ceremony. She asked Yang Rong to book a plane ticket for her, and she arranged all the work on hand. She planned to take a few days off to accompany her son. To be honest, ever since Su Qingsang recognized her, she had focused most of her attention on her daughter. In the past year, she had neglected this son a lot. When Li Qianxue thought of this, she couldn't sit still anymore. She bought a lot of gifts in Lin City. Then, 2 days before Su Yusin's birthday, she got on the plane to visit Su Yusin. Su Yusin had been in university for a year. Other than the first year that students had to live on campus, the Imperial Capital University could choose whether they wanted to live on campus or not. With the Li family's financial resources, Li Qianxue naturally wouldn't let her son squeeze into the school dormitory. She had bought a house near the Imperial Capital University long ago to make it convenient for Su Yusin to go to school. She also hired a special nanny to take care of him. After getting off the plane, the car that had been arranged in advance sent her directly to Su Yusin's apartment. Chapter 721. Li Qianxue had been there for the past few days because she wanted to spend time with her son. Therefore, she didn't let her assistant follow her and came alone. She was carrying a suitcase in one hand and a gift for Su Yusin in the other. The moment she saw Su Qinghui, she almost dropped the gift in her hand. For a moment, she suspected that he had bribed Yang Rong. Otherwise, how would he know that the good news was coming? Su Qinghui really didn't follow her on purpose. He came to the capital to discuss a cooperation project. Then, because Su Yusin's birthday was coming up, she came over to see him. Because Su Yusin's residence was not far from the city, he did not stay in a hotel. Instead, he stayed at Su Yusin's place. At this moment, he was holding a document bag in his hand and dressed in a suit and leather shoes. It seemed that he was about to go out. When he saw Li Qianxue enter the door, he stopped in his tracks, as if he didn't expect Li Qianxue to come. The two of them stood in the spacious living room and stared at each other. "Why are you here?" After Li Qianxue asked the question, she realized that she had asked a stupid question. Before the divorce, Su Yusin had decided to go to university in the capital. She and Su Qinghui had picked this house together. The neighborhood was good, the property was good, and it was close to Imperial Capital University. Even though Su Yusin had only been studying here for a few years, in order to make his son live comfortably, the two of them had done their homework before coming here. After the house was bought, the decorations were done according to Su Yusin's favorite style and were done by the decoration company. After that, Li Qianxue also came a few times. Every time she came to see her son, she stayed here. As for Su Qinghui, she had never met him. "I came to see Yusin." The corners of Li Qianxue's lips curled up, and there was mockery in her eyes. Her eyes fell on the document bag in Su Qinghui's hand. Without saying anything, she carried her luggage into the house. She took the gift for her son to his room and was about to go to the guest room with her clothes, only to find that the guest room was already occupied by Su Qinghui. Her expression was somewhat unsightly. The location of the house where Su Yusin went to school was good, and the layout was also good. But there was one thing. In the beginning, Li Qianxue wanted her son to live more comfortably, so she connected the two houses into one. The place was huge, but there were only 3 rooms. One was given to Su Yusin as the master bedroom, one was a guest room, and one was a study. There's nothing more. Looking at the overly spacious living room outside, Li Qianxue's expression did not look good. Su Qinghui didn't leave. He followed Li Qianxue to the door of the guest room. Of course, he also saw the suitcase he had left in the room. "You stay here. I'll squeeze in with Yusin." Li Qianxue turned to look at him, and the corners of her lips curled up with a hint of coldness. "I'm more inclined to let you stay in a hotel." She was there to celebrate Su Yusin's birthday. What was Su Qinghui doing here? "Qianxue." Su Qinghui seemed very helpless. "I am also Yusin's father." "Ha. Yeah, I know." Li Qianxue crossed her arms in front of her chest, her expression uneasy. "If you weren't the father of 2 children, do you think you would still be standing here now?" Su Qinghui wasn't angry at her words. He went into his room and began to pack his things. He had only been here for 2 days, so he didn't have too many things. She packed up her things and carried her suitcase to Su Yusin's room. While he was doing these things, Li Qianxue had been watching him. There was no expression on her face, but it was obvious that she was very unhappy, very unhappy. Su Qinghui finished packing and was about to go out. He looked at his watch. "Qianxue, I'm going out for a while. If you want to go, then go. I don't need you to care about me." Su Qinghui actually wanted to stay, but he had business to attend to. After thinking about it, he decided to leave first. He left, but Li Qianxue's expression didn't improve much. There had been a lot of things to do in the company during this period of time. She also wanted to take this opportunity to rest for a few days. Now that she saw Su Qinghui, she only felt angry. She had a feeling that her vacation had been ruined. Damn it. Su Yusin was very busy with schoolwork. After the afternoon class, he rejected his friend's appointment and went home. However, he didn't expect to see his mother instead of his father when he opened the door. "Mom. Why are you here?" "I'm here to see you." Facing her son, Li Qianxue restrained all her emotions. Speaking of which, neither of her 2 children went smoothly. When she gave birth to Su Qing-sang for the first time, the position of the fetus was not right. It took her a long time to give birth to the child. It was even more so when she gave birth to Su Yusin. At that time, her relationship with Su Qinghui was cold. When she was pregnant, her emotions fluctuated too much. She still hadn't forgotten that when Su Yusin was born, his body was much thinner and smaller than the average child. In the blink of an eye, her son had grown up so much, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in college. "Where's my dad?" Su Yusin glanced into the room but didn't find Su Qinghui. Who knows? Li Qianxue didn't want to mention Su Qinghui. "Yusin, it's your birthday in a few days. Mom bought you a lot of gifts. Also, didn't you say that you liked Aston Martin last time? The car will be delivered tomorrow. I picked your favorite white one." "Mom. There's no need. I have a car." Su Yusin had a headache. He used to go to school in Lin City. Now that he was in the capital, he was going to drive a sports car to class. How is it exaggerated? Li Qianxue adjusted her son's collar. "If you like it, then drive it. It's just a car." Su Yusin decided not to discuss this issue with Li Qianxue. For Li Qianxue, ever since the divorce, she wanted to be twice as good to her two children. "Mom, when did you arrive? Have you eaten?" "I just ate something outside for lunch. Aren't we waiting for you for dinner?" When Li Qianxue heard Su Yusin say that he was hungry, she immediately looked at the time. "It's getting late. Yusin, are you hungry? Let's go eat. I checked when I came. There are a few good restaurants near the capital university." "Mom." Su Yusin was a little hesitant. "I promised to have dinner with Dad tonight." Li Qianxue's expression suddenly became a little subtle. What she didn't want to hear the most now was everything related to Su Qinghui. "Let's go eat. Don't worry about him. Give him a call and tell him to take care of it outside." "Mom." Su Yusin had a headache. Ever since he was young, Su Qinghui had indeed spent the most effort on Su Peixian. However, he was a boy. He wouldn't say that he was so jealous of his sister. Another thing was that Su Qinghui was actually very good to him. He had a good relationship with Su Qinghui. "It's decided then. Call him." Li Qianxue saw the gloomy look on her son's face halfway through her words. She swallowed the rest of her words. What was she doing? Forcing her son to break off relations with Su Qinghui. Asking her son to disown Su Qinghui. Even if she and Su Qinghui divorced, it was still between her and Su Qinghui. Why did she have to involve the child? Forget it. Li Qianxue waved her hand and sat back on the sofa. Ask him where he is. She originally wanted to be angry and let Su Yusin and Su Qinghui go eat together. She would rather starve than eat with Su Qinghui. However, for the sake of the child, she didn't want to do this. This was a different matter. She couldn't vent her anger on the child because of what Su Qinghui had done. Mom. Su Yusin knew that since Li Qianxue and Su Qinghui divorced, she had never liked him. If you really don't want to see Dad, why don't we go eat together and let him settle it himself? Okay. Li Qianxue patted the back of Su Yusin's hand. Do you think I don't know you? If I really do that, you probably won't be able to sleep tonight. Su Yusin didn't refute. Su Yusin was a father, and Li Qianxue was a mother. He really didn't want their relationship to be too stiff, but unfortunately, he couldn't break the deadlock in front of him. When Li Qianxue and her son arrived at the restaurant she had booked before, Su Qinghui hadn't arrived yet. It was better if he didn't come. They could have a good talk. Although they had video calls and often contacted each other. It was different to see her son in person. why do you feel a little thinner? Is it because your schoolwork is too heavy? Don't tire yourself out too much. How am I tired? Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Su Yusin picked up the teapot on the table and poured tea for Li Qinxue. As for the topic of him losing weight, he didn't answer. Generally, a mother would feel thinner if she didn't see her child for a few days. It's good that you know what you're doing. Li Qinxue came to celebrate Su Yusin's birthday this time. Yusin, how do you want to celebrate your birthday? You should have good classmates in college, right? Why don't I book a place to hold a party and invite all your classmates and professors? Mom, there's no need. Su Yusin was only halfway through his words when the door of the private room was opened. Su Qinghui came. He was stunned when he saw Li Qinxue. He thought she didn't want to see him. Li Qinxue really didn't want to see him. When he entered the door, she turned her gaze away and didn't intend to look at him at all. The atmosphere in the private room was inexplicably a little strange. Su Yusin stood up at this time to smooth things over. Dad, you're here. You haven't eaten yet, right? The dishes are ordered. I'll ask them to serve the dishes since you're here. He rang the bell to ask the waiter to serve the dishes. Su Yusin thought for a moment and asked Su Qinghui to sit on the other side of him. With him there to separate the two of them, it might be a little less awkward. But in this way, Li Qinxue, who was originally looking at him, could naturally see Su Qinghui. As for Su Qinghui, his eyes never left Li Qinxue. Dad, are you done with your work? Yes. Su Qinghui nodded, and his face finally relaxed a little. It's going well. Everything will be fine tomorrow and the day after. Su Yusin's birthday was the day after tomorrow, which happened to be Saturday. What gift does Yusin want? Daddy will give you a lift. No need, I don't lack anything. Didn't you say you liked the Aston Martin V12? Vantage. How about I order one for you? Su Qinghui remembered seeing his son's post on WeChat. Picture of Vantage. No need. This time, it was Li Qinxue who spoke. Her face was gloomy, and a storm was gathering in her eyes. I've already bought a car for my son. There's no need for you to send me. As Li Qinxue spoke, there was a flash of mockery in her eyes. If you want to give someone a gift, you have to ask first. It was obvious that she did not care about the child at all. But you've always been like this. All these years, I've seen you carefully prepare Su Peixian's present. When have you ever cared about the other two children's birthdays? Mom. Su Yusin did not expect that Li Qinxue would take advantage of this opportunity to make things difficult for him. It wasn't as exaggerated as Li Qinxue said. It was just that, relatively speaking, Su Qinghui was a little strict with him. But this was only because he was a boy. He understood. Qinxue. Su Qinghui didn't know what else he could say. He came from an ordinary background, and he relied entirely on his own efforts to achieve what he had today. He had never advocated spoiling children. Even the gifts he had given Su Peixian in the past weren't necessarily very expensive. They were all things that they could use on a daily basis. After all, there was Li Qinxue and old Master Li at home. The children usually got enough. However, he didn't expect such a thing to be interpreted like this in Li Qinxue's eyes. I always keep my children's birthdays in mind. I didn't order a car at the time because Yusin is going to school here now. It's the same if I really need to go back to Lin City to prepare for him. You have to choose the time and place to give a gift. To put it bluntly, aren't you just not caring? He's just going to school here. It's not appropriate for him to drive a sports car every day. Look at what you're saying. What's wrong with my son driving a sports car? Those third-rate celebrities swagger around the streets in sports cars. There's no reason why Yusin can't, right? That's not what I meant at all. Su Qinghui didn't want to argue with Li Qianxue, and he didn't understand where her anger came from. I mean, Yusin is still going to school. Su Yusin knew why Li Qianxue was angry, but before he could speak, Li Qianxue's face had already darkened. It was quite ugly. Su Qinghui. On Su Peixian's 18th birthday, you bought her a Ferrari. Do you want me to say it? All these years, how have you treated Su Peixian? How have you treated Yusin and Qingsang? Do you want me to tell you one thing at a time? The atmosphere in the private room dropped to a freezing point. Su Yusin felt a headache coming on. Dad, Mom, stop arguing. Li Qianxue couldn't stay any longer. Argue? Who wants to argue with him? Look at him. How is he a father? He didn't even prepare a gift for your birthday. Is this how he acts as a father? She couldn't go on. Her heart was stifled. She stood up and was about to leave. Su Yusin quickly grabbed her. Mom, calm down. It's not that exaggerated. Dad came to prepare a gift for me the day before yesterday. Really? What? Randomly picked out a watch. Has he ever treated you with affection? Has he ever treated Qingsang with affection? Li Qianxue wasn't a person who liked to bring up old scores. She came out today because she wanted to have a good meal with her son. However, Su Qinghui's attitude just now really made her angry. Look at how he treats Su Peixian, and how he treats you and Qingsang. He doesn't deserve to be a father at all. Mom. Su Yusin really regretted it now. If he had known earlier, he would have let Su Qinghui eat out. Dad isn't like what you said. He usually treats me very well. You know that. Su Yusin really didn't think it was a big deal. He usually had pocket money, and old Master Li and Li Qianxue wouldn't let the child suffer. In the past, he and Su Peixian had learned to make their own investments. He would buy whatever he wanted. He didn't understand why Li Qianxue was so angry. Perhaps he knew, but he really didn't think it was necessary. Mom, you're here to accompany me, right? Can we have a good meal? Li Qianxue didn't speak. Looking at her son's face, she sat down again in the end. At this time, the waiter began to serve the dishes. Li Qianxue ordered all of Su Yusin's favorites. No matter how powerful she was outside, she really loved her two children. At this time, she didn't want to argue with Su Qinghui anymore. She kept putting food into Su Yusin's bowl. However, from beginning to end, she didn't look at Su Qinghui. After all, she didn't want Su Yusin to worry. She was very depressed during the meal, but she still forced herself to squeeze out a smile. This made Li Qianxue feel very bad. Finally, after the meal, when Su Qinghui got up, she threw a dagger in his direction. In the evening, after ending the video call with Su Qingsang, she called old Master Li again. Li Qianxue went out of the room to the kitchen to pour herself a glass of water. When she walked out of the room, she saw Su Qinghui sitting on the sofa. He had a cigarette in his hand, but it wasn't lit. Li Qianxue stopped in her tracks. If you want to smoke, go out. Don't pollute the air here. I don't smoke. Su Qinghui did want to use the tobacco to relax for a while, but it was just a thought. After throwing the cigarette into the trash can, he stood up and looked at Li Qianxue. Qianxue, I don't want to smoke. She didn't understand why he explained so carefully. Anyway, Li Qianxue didn't care about this. It's fine as long as you don't smoke in this room. You don't have to tell me. You can do whatever you want. It has nothing to do with me. Qianxue. Su Qinghui took 2 steps forward and stood in front of her. He looked at her face, and there was a hint of pain in his eyes. It's not that I don't care. Whether it's Yusin or Qingsang, they're all my children. They're all your children. So, on Su Peixian's birthday, you held a party every year. Every year, you invited a group of people to celebrate her. Every year, you prepared birthday gifts for her early. What about the other two? Qianxue. Su Qinghui's expression was bitter. It's not fair for you to blame me like this, because you were the one who wanted to hold a party for Peixian. Do you remember? I stopped you a long time ago. You were the one who insisted on celebrating her like this. Su Qinghui. Li Qianxue was very angry. How can you have the face to mention it? Why did I have to celebrate it? That's because I thought she was my child. As the granddaughter of the Li family, of course, she can enjoy the treatment she deserves. But what about you? What did you do? All these years, Qingsang and Su Peixian's birthdays were only one day apart. What about Qingsang? Have you ever done anything for her? Su Qinghui couldn't refute, but at this moment, he understood one thing. Perhaps what Li Qianxue hated the most was not that he didn't love her, but because. Qianxue, do you hate me because you think I mistreated the two children? Chapter 722. At this time, Li Qianxue's expression was extremely cold, and there was uncontrollable anger in her eyes. However, she still tried her best to control the volume of her voice, not letting her emotions go out of control. Su Yusin entered the study and was working on a topic. He said that he would have time to walk around the capital with her after he was done. She didn't want the child to hear her words. No child could accept their parents' neglect and favoritism. She was the only daughter of the Li family. Old Master Li had given her all his love. After she became a mother, she doted on Su Peixian a little because she had spoiled her when she was young. She treated Su Yusin the same way, but what about Su Qinghui? Su Qinghui, do you dare? Do you dare to touch your conscience and say that you did not mistreat the other two children? Some things were already in the past, and she didn't want to bring them up. She could just pretend that she was blind and had misjudged him for those 20 years. But the children were innocent. He now appeared in front of her every day, treated her well, and wanted to redeem himself. She knew it all. But how? What else was there to redeem? Su Qingsang had been mistreated by him for so many years, and they hadn't even celebrated her birthday properly. Li Qianxue's question made Su Qinghui speechless. He wanted to say no, he wanted to say that he had never treated Su Yusin badly. But Su Qingsang, Qianxue, Li Qianxue didn't want to talk to him anymore. After glaring at him, she entered the room. The door opened and closed. Standing in the living room, Su Qinghui suddenly realized that the situation in front of him was more difficult than he thought. Su Yusin had been in the study before. He was highly regarded by the professor and had asked him to participate in 2 projects. He did not hear the argument outside. When he was done, he wanted to go to the guest room to see Li Qianxue, but the door was shut. Yusin, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep first. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Su Yusin stood at the door. He was quite smart and immediately understood the key point of the problem. When he was in the study just now, half of his idea was to create some opportunities for Su Qinghui. Unlike Su Qingsang, he had a much deeper relationship with Su Qinghui. If there was a chance, he couldn't help but want to help Su Qinghui. It didn't mean that he had to get back together with Li Qianxue. He just couldn't bear to do it. After all, he had seen Su Qinghui's performance over the past year. After washing up, the father and son slept on the bed. This was also very little experience. The Li family had a large business, and they had housekeepers and servants. After the two children were born, there were people specially taking care of them. Su Qinghui had never slept in the same bed as his son. He turned over and looked at the night sky outside the window. He noticed that his son was not asleep, but he did not turn around. He just turned over and lay flat, looking at the ceiling above his head. Yusin, do you hate me too? Su Yusin shook his head. No, I don't. Why wouldn't you hate me? I thought you'd hate me. You are my father. That was the answer. Su Qinghui smiled bitterly. There was a hint of disappointment in his voice. You really don't hate me, Dad. Su Yusin didn't know how to comfort him. In fact, he wasn't very good at comforting people. Mom is just angry. Just wait for her to calm down. Was it just anger? It was hatred. I know I made mistakes in the past, and I've been trying to make up for it. But now I realize that what your mother wants is not me making up for it. He had always thought that what Li Qianxue hated was his lack of love and his deception. It was not until today that he realized that what Li Qianxue hated the most was the harm he had done to the two children. The harm was on the son's body, and the pain was in the mother's heart. For Li Qianxue, the two children were her weakness. Su Yusin didn't know what to say. It would be inappropriate for him to say anything at this time. Li Qianxue was such a proud woman. How could she care about Su Qinghui's compensation? Not to mention Li Qianxue, even he and Su Qingsang had long passed the age of needing a father's love. Go to sleep. Su Qinghui realized that he had said too much. In his eyes, his son was still young. He didn't want to transfer such pressure to him. He turned over again and went to sleep on the other side. Su Yusin glanced at Su Qinghui's figure in the darkness. Dad, since Mom refuses to forgive you, she doesn't want your compensation. Why don't you try another way? Feeling that Su Qinghui suddenly turned around, his voice was very soft. Why did you make Mom fall in love with you back then? Why don't you just let Mom fall in love with you again? Let Li Qianxue love him again. It was easier said than done. That was simply an insurmountable Mount Everest for him. Su Yusin also realized that his suggestion was not very useful. He turned around, closed his eyes, and stopped talking. Su Qinghui, however, couldn't sleep all night because of his words. Li Qianxue didn't sleep well. She was very picky, and she was very picky about her bed. Most importantly, the bed she slept on had been slept on by Su Qinghui before. Even if she didn't want to, she still smelled Su Qinghui's scent left on the bed. It was very faint, but she had been married to Su Qinghui for so many years. She knew everything about him that she couldn't know anymore. That scent made Li Qianxue insomnia. She finally fell asleep, but she fell into a nightmare of the past. Yes, that past was really a nightmare for Li Qianxue. She dreamed of Su Qingsang's childhood. For her, she could remember very little about Su Qingsang before she grew up. However, she still had a little impression of that incident. After she recognized Su Qingsang, she had been trying hard to suppress it and not let herself think about it. But the dream was not under her control. Mom. In the dream, Su Qingsang became 4 or 5 years old. From the perspective of a bystander, she saw her hiding in the corner of the living room, looking enviously at Su Peijian, who was pouncing on her. When Su Peijian was 4 or 5 years old, it was the most adorable and fun time. When she went to kindergarten, she would be exposed to many new things every day. She liked Li Qianxue. Every day after school, she would learn from Li Qianxue for a long time about what happened in school. Today, their outdoor activity was playing in the mud. This was absolutely not allowed in the Li family. Li Qianxue was a neat freak and didn't like the mess in the house. However, Su Peijian had a lot of fun. She was still young at that time, just a child. Li Qianxue had always been very patient with her daughter. Looking at her daughter who was like a mud monkey, she called the nanny and asked her to take Su Peixian to wash up. At that time, the smile on her face was too gentle. Su Qingsang, who was watching this scene from the corner, felt inexplicably envious. She took small steps and carefully approached her. At that time, Li Qianxue sat back on the sofa. She was reading a financial magazine in her hand. "Mom." Su Qingsang's first call was very soft. Li Qianxue didn't hear it. Because she didn't respond, Su Qingsang became a little bolder and took 2 steps forward. "Mom." She swallowed her saliva. These 2 calls had used up all her courage. Li Qianxue heard it. She quickly turned her face. When she saw that the person who came was not Su Peixian but Su Qingsang, her expression suddenly changed. "Who are you calling Mom?" Su Qingsang bit her lip, frightened by Li Qianxue's appearance. She didn't know why. She was still so young. She just wanted to be close to Li Qianxue. This was the nature of blood. Unfortunately, Su Qingsang didn't understand back then. You. She couldn't speak clearly. When she looked at Li Qianxue's exquisite and beautiful face, she couldn't help but call out again, "Mom." She was also a child of this family. Her surname was also Su. She could call Li Qianxue Mom, right? Li Qianxue threw the magazine in her hand on the coffee table. She stood up and looked down at the small figure with a gloomy face. "I'm not your mother. Don't call me Mom." Her upbringing prevented her from doing anything to abuse or hurt Su Qingsang, but it was absolutely impossible for her to accept Su Qingsang. She wasn't that magnanimous. Su Qingsang was frightened by the look in her eyes, especially the moment she raised her foot. She almost thought that she wanted to beat her up. With a pale face, she turned around and ran away without looking back. That was a memory from a long time ago. Tonight, it suddenly rushed into the dream. Li Qianxue remembered that after that, Su Qingsang always walked around her when she saw her. But at that time, she felt that it wasn't enough. She didn't want to see Su Qingsang. After all, every time she saw her, it was nothing more than a reminder that Su Qinghui didn't love her. So she found Su Qinghui. "It's fine if you want me to raise an illegitimate daughter for you. You know my temper. If you don't want me to kick her out, you should keep her away from me." What was Su Qinghui's reaction at that time? He didn't say anything. Not only did he not say anything, but he also chased Su Qingsang, who was already afraid of her and would almost always walk around her when she saw her, to the back of the main residence, where the servants lived. If it weren't for the fact that old Master Li felt that it was too harsh and finally asked Su Qingsang to move back to the room, Su Qingsang would probably be reduced to a maid in the future. Su Qinghui, for such a long time, just watched his daughter become unfamiliar with him and alienated from him. With so many opportunities, he could have completely turned things around. Set things right and let everything go back to square one. But what about him? She hated him. She hated Su Qinghui as much as she felt sorry for her daughter at that time. Time will last forever, but this hatred will never end. Li Qianxue woke up from her dream. The strong emotions made her eyes a little swollen and sore. She blinked and couldn't sleep anymore. She got up and looked at the time. She didn't expect it to be only 5 in the morning. Unable to sleep, she got up and went to the kitchen to get some water to drink. However, as soon as she left the room, she was almost scared by the dark shadow on the sofa. At 5 in the morning, the sky was about to brighten. She couldn't see his facial features clearly, only a blurry shadow. When she turned on the light and saw that it was Su Qinghui, Li Qianxue's face was frighteningly gloomy. She had just woken up from a nightmare. Naturally, she didn't have a good expression when she saw the person who gave her nightmares. Glancing at him coldly, Li Qianxue went into the kitchen to get some water. She had just poured herself a glass of water to drink when Su Qinghui came over from the other end. He always walked very lightly, and there was no sound of his footsteps. Li Qianxue was caught off guard when she saw him appear again. The cup in her hand almost fell to the ground. It was him in the dream, and it was him in reality. Li Qianxue's expression was ugly. Su Qinghui, you're not sleeping in the middle of the night. What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare? Su Qinghui didn't answer her question. He glanced at Li Qianxue and thought about his determination that night. When he met Li Qianxue's gaze, he couldn't remember what he wanted to say, as if he had lost his memory. Qianxue, did you have a nightmare? Li Qianxue sneered. Aren't you my nightmare? Li Qianxue drank the water in one gulp. She didn't want to stay for a second longer. She put down the cup and left. Su Qinghui held her arm and stared at her face. Let go of me. Li Qianxue's voice was extremely cold. Su Qinghui, let go of me. Yusin is still sleeping, Su Qinghui reminded her in a very low voice. Su Qinghui, don't act like a father and son in front of me. You look like you love Yusin so much. It's disgusting. Qianxue. Su Qinghui really didn't want to be at loggerheads with Li Qianxue every time. He had been working hard to improve the relationship between the two of them. He didn't need to change much. As long as Li Qianxue didn't look at him with such a mocking gaze and didn't treat him with such a distant expression, it would be fine. Yusin said that he doesn't hate me. He had asked Su Qingsang when he went to Rong City before. She didn't hate him either. Su Qinghui didn't know why he said this, but Li Qianxue seemed to understand what he meant. She suddenly pulled her hand back. Yusin said that he doesn't hate you. Yes. What a coincidence. It's not just Yusin who doesn't hate you. Qingsang also said that she doesn't hate you. Su Yusin didn't quite understand what Li Qianxue was trying to say. She stood up straight and stared at Su Qinghui's face. My son and daughter don't hate you. It's because you're their father. No matter what you do, they will forgive you. She took a step forward and placed one hand on Su Qinghui's chest. She didn't use much strength, but her beautifully manicured nails almost pierced into his chest. But I'm different. They don't hate me, but I do. Su Qinghui, what you did to me all those years ago was my own blindness. But what you did to the children, I will never forgive you for the rest of my life. If they don't hate you, I will hate you for them. When Su Yusin got up, he found that the atmosphere between Li Qianxue and Su Qinghui was even worse. Li Qianxue didn't sleep well last night, so she went back to sleep. This time, she didn't have a nightmare, but when she got up, she still didn't look good. Seeing Su Yusin standing there in a daze, she reached out and motioned for him to go out with her. I checked yesterday. There's a Cantonese and Hong Kong tea restaurant here that serves good morning tea. Let's go. Su Yusin wasn't in a hurry to follow behind her. Instead, he looked in Su Qinghui's direction. Su Qinghui sat on the sofa and looked in this direction, but he didn't seem to have any intention of getting up. Yusin, let's go and have breakfast with Mom. Li Qianxue called again. Su Yusin's feet couldn't help but call out to Su Qinghui. Dad, let's go together. No need, you guys go ahead. Su Qinghui's expression was very calm. He knew that Li Qianxue didn't want to eat with him. You guys go ahead. I'll just cook some noodles later. You heard that. Let's go. Li Qianxue pulled her son and left. She had no intention of paying attention to Su Qinghui at all. Su Yusin was pulled to the door by her. Chapter 723. Li Qianxue originally wanted to stay in the capital for a few more days to accompany Su Yusin. However, on the one hand, he was busy with schoolwork, and on the other hand, Su Qinghui was there. It wasn't a problem to have Su Yusin accompany her, but every time he stayed by her side, she always felt that he couldn't bear to leave Su Qinghui behind. Su Qinghui had done so many wrong things. But neither of the children hated him. The last thing she wanted to see was Su Qinghui. She tried her best to restrain her emotions. After spending his birthday with Su Yusin, Li Qianxue planned to go home. However, before returning to Lin City, she planned to visit Su Qingsang in Rong City. Even though she called Su Qingsang every day, she was very fond of the twins, who were getting bigger and bigger. He wished that he could hold it in his arms and dote on it. Su Yusin also liked Su Qingsang's two little nephews, but he didn't have time. After thinking about it, he picked out some gifts and asked Li Qianxue to bring them to Su Qingsang. Li Qianxue stayed in Rong City for 3 days. Because she saw her little grandson and granddaughter, her gloomy mood improved a lot. When Li Qianxue entered the company, she gave the gift she bought in the capital to Yang Rong. Yang Rong had followed her since she was young, and the two of them had a good relationship. Thank you. Yang Rong took the gift and handed the schedule in her hand to Li Qianxue. Even if you give me a gift, I have to say that you have 3 meetings and 1 social engagement today. All right. Li Qianxue had been away for a few days, and a lot of work had piled up. She opened her calendar and glanced at it. Is that all for today? Yes, but there's a banquet tomorrow night. It's old Master Dong's birthday. Last time, the Li Corporation's anniversary celebration, the Dong family gave a very generous gift. I personally think you should go yourself. Okay. Mr. Dong had a personal relationship with old Master Li, so of course she would go. Also, next week, there will be an award ceremony for the city's top 10 outstanding youths. I told you last week that as an outstanding enterprise in the city, you were also invited. Yes, I will be there. After signing a few documents, Li Qianxue looked up at her. Is there anything else? The last one. Yang Rong picked up the document. You should remember that tomorrow at 10 a.m. is the groundbreaking ceremony for City Star. The time is 10 in the morning. City Star was the name of the project in the North District. The brand new smart community would become a landmark in Lin City. Li Qianxue was stunned for a moment. After celebrating Su Yusin's birthday, she left the capital and went to Rong City to visit Su Qingsang. On the way back to Lin City, Su Qingsang drove her to the airport. At that time, Su Qingsang said a few words to her. On Su Yusin's birthday, Su Qingsang called Su Yusin and asked someone to send him a gift. Not only her, but even Hu Jinyao had sent a gift over. That was how he found out that Su Yusin was with Su Qinghui and Li Qianxue. She didn't know what Su Yusin said to Su Qingsang, but when Su Qingsang drove her to the airport, she took the initiative to mention Su Qinghui. Mom, do you still hate Dad? Why did you mention him when you were fine? I don't want to mention him. I just want to tell you that if you're complaining about the injustice between me and Yusin, you've always hated me. I don't think it's necessary. What had happened was already in the past. Whether it's me or Yusin, neither of us want to think about this anymore. Qingsang, Mom, the truth is, I really don't hate Dad. I don't feel like I'm at a disadvantage being raised as an illegitimate daughter or anything. First of all, my family didn't lack food or clothes. No matter what, I've grown up safely. Su Qingsang was serious when she said this. She once read a book that said, if you encountered unspeakable pain, if you encountered a difficult hurdle in life, then you had to endure it and get through it. After 10 years, you would find that the past was not worth mentioning at all. Although some things might not be very pleasant in the middle, I also met Hu Jinyao because of this. You know, if I was really raised by you and Dad, I might not have had the chance to meet Hu Jinyao. So where was she going to find such a good husband? I'm doing very well now. So I don't hate anyone, and naturally I don't hate Dad. I'm more willing to believe that these things were all given to me by God. I'm grateful for what I've experienced. Really? Li Qianxue didn't know what to say. She had always known that Su Qingsang was too emotional, but she didn't expect her to be this emotional. Qingsang. Mom, I'm serious. Su Qingsang didn't want Li Qianxue to be stuck in a dilemma. If you hate Dad because of me and Yusin, then there's no need, because we don't hate him. Su Qingsang paused, as if she was struggling with how to say it. This was actually not suitable for her to say as a daughter, but she really didn't want to see Li Qianxue continue like this. Mom, if you hate Dad because he has neglected and lied to you all these years, then I don't want to say more. This is your freedom. But I still want to say that hating someone is very tiring. If you really think it's impossible for you and Dad, then why don't you let it go? Treat him as a stranger. Ignore him, don't look at him, and don't hate him. After all, you won't hate a stranger, right? I'm not asking you to forgive Dad. I just want you to live an easier and happier life. I know you feel guilty about me, and I also know that you've always regretted not acknowledging me earlier and not taking good care of me. But I'm already so old, and I don't need you to take care of me. I'm a mother myself now. I understand your kindness to me and your love for me. So I hope you can live a good life. In fact, Su Qingsang had wanted to say these words for a long time, but she knew that Li Qianxue couldn't bear to hear it at the time. You cannot forgive Dad, and you can continue to hate him. But I hope you can let yourself go. You can be good and don't care about what Dad has done in the past, and don't care about what he is doing now. You just have to be happy. For example, find another man and fall in love again. Even if you don't want to find a man for the time being and don't want to fall in love, it's okay. Mom, the days before you were not what you hoped or wanted. I hope you are happy. I hope that the rest of your life is what you want. But this kind of life definitely didn't include hating someone. Hating someone was too tiring. In fact, Su Qingsang had watched him for more than a year. She really felt that the best punishment for Su Qinghui now was not to hate him at all, but to treat him as a stranger. Ignoring him and not reacting to anything he did, that was the best form of revenge. But Li Qianxue couldn't do it. She always hated Su Qinghui. Very much. Mom, actually, you can ask your heart. Do you really hate Dad because we have been mistreated, or is it because you still can't let go of his neglect, and lack of love for you for the past 20 years? These words shocked Li Qianxue. Her lips moved, and she wanted to refute. However, Su Qingsang seemed to see through her mind. Mom, don't be in a hurry to deny it. I believe that part of the reason you hate Dad is because you think he has mistreated us. But don't you hate yourself? After all these years, can you really not hate Dad for hurting you? Of course I hate, extremely hate. Li Qianxue's words were interrupted by Su Qingsang. In her opinion, there were many reasons for this, and there was definitely more than one reason. Mom, no matter what it is, you can think about it. What exactly is the reason for your hate? I still say the same thing. If you hate because of us, then let it go. Don't look at it and don't care. You treating him like a stranger is the greatest, the best revenge. Trust me. But if you hate because of yourself, because you can't let it go, I think you can try to give Dad a chance. Use the rest of your life to torture him. Take revenge on him for everything he has done to you. Mom, I'm not saying that you should get back together with Dad. I just think it's too hard for you. I don't want you to work hard. You can live a more relaxed life. Choose an outcome that you can accept the most and live the life you want. Mom, I can't be with you every day, but I really hope that you can think about what I said. Think about it. Is this really what you need? Is this kind of life, is it what you want? Mom, do you know? I used to admire you very much. I thought you were like a strong woman. No matter what, you couldn't be beaten or crushed. You were always very rational and aloof. But the premise of all this is that you haven't encountered anything related to Dad. I don't know if you've noticed, but every time you encounter something related to Dad, you can't calm down. Su Qingsang said so much. Although Li Qianxue couldn't hear it at the moment, she couldn't help but want to refute this sentence. How could I? I don't care about him at all. You don't care about him. If you don't care, why are you unhappy every time Dad calls me or Yusin? You say he's pretending, you say he's hypocritical. He's hypocritical. Li Qianxue wanted to say this, but Su Qingsang asked, then why didn't he call me or come to see me? Why were you even more unhappy? When she had just given birth, Su Qinghui didn't come in time because he didn't get the news. At that time, Li Qianxue's reaction was very bad. Even if she didn't show it explicitly, she told Su Yusin afterwards that Su Qinghui was indeed inhumane and didn't even care about his own daughter. If Su Yusin hadn't told her this in private, she wouldn't have known at all. However, when Su Qinghui came to see her and the two children, Li Qianxue said that he was superficial and hypocritical. It was because she wanted to cooperate with the Hua family. Mom, don't you think that in the past year or so, every time your emotions fluctuated, it was because of Dad? No, it should be said that in Li Qianxue's entire life, on the days when she had interacted with Su Qinghui, she would always be excited because of Su Qinghui. Li Qianxue wanted to refute, but she was speechless. In the end, she could only stop talking. Su Qingsang knew that Rome wasn't built in a day. Later, she didn't continue to persuade her. However, what she said still left a mark in her heart. It made her think all the way back to Lin City on the plain. Presently, Yang Rong's words brought Li Qianxue back to her senses. She looked at Yang Rong in front of her and nodded. Okay, I understand. Then I'll go out first. After Yang Rong left, the office became quiet. Li Qianxue turned around and looked out the window. Why did she hate him? Did she want to hate him? Did she want to treat Su Qinghui as a stranger and completely ignore him? She didn't care and treated him as if he didn't exist. Or should she give him a chance? Use the rest of her life to torture him? Li Qianxue instinctively shook off this answer. No, she didn't want it. The best revenge was to treat him as a stranger. Yes, she should do it this way. Treat Su Qinghui as a stranger. No matter what he did or said, she would completely ignore him. Of course, this might be a little difficult for her, but it didn't matter. No matter how difficult it was, she would work hard. Removing Su Qinghui from her mind, she focused on dealing with business matters. As for Su Qinghui, he would be a stranger in the future. The groundbreaking ceremony for City Star. At 9:30 p.m., Li Qianxue had already arrived at the construction site first. Those who had participated in the groundbreaking ceremony knew that this event was actually not friendly at all. It was to cut the ribbon in a muddy field that had not yet started construction, and then shovel a few soil on the cornerstone. It was fine when the weather was good, but when the weather was hot, the sun could make you dizzy. It was already early summer, and the weather in Lin City was very hot. As soon as Li Qianxue got out of the car, she felt the waves of heat coming towards her. Li Junxing, Chief Zhou, Secretary Li, and Chief Chen hadn't arrived yet. Yang Rong followed behind Li Qianxue and looked at her surroundings. Li Qianxue looked at the balloon floating above, then at the receptionist who was ready not far away. She turned around and glanced at Yang Rong. Every time we start work, we do this. Can't the planning come up with something new? President Li, although it's the same thing every time. But the project is different. Li Qianxue didn't say anything. Seeing that Wang Tao had already arrived, she planned to go up and greet him. She asked Yang Rong to give more instructions and get someone to check the surroundings again. She walked in Wang Tao's direction. Before she could take 2 steps, an umbrella appeared above her head. Li Qianxue forgot to take an umbrella when she got out of the car. It was mainly because she still had to cut the ribbon and shovel the soil later. She wouldn't be able to hold the umbrella for long. She turned around and when she saw Wei Ting, a hint of confusion appeared on her face. Why are you here? It's such a big thing like laying the foundation of your company. Of course I have to come. Wei Ting smiled and turned the umbrella in her direction. The sun is big. I'll be your lackey today. I don't want you to tan. Thank you, Li Qianxue thanked him. However, her footsteps continued to walk in Wang Tao's direction. Wei Ting moved closer to her and stuck out his tongue innocently when she glared at him. Qianxue, you can't blame me. I'm just afraid that you'll get tanned. Thank you, but can you please stay away from me? She wasn't far from Wang Tao. However, before she could get closer, she saw a person get out of the car next to Wang Tao. If it wasn't Su Qinghui, who else could it be? When she saw Su Qinghui, she was only stunned for a moment. She nodded slightly as a greeting. Su Qinghui saw Wei Ting's actions and also saw that Li Qianxue didn't push him away. He lowered his eyes and looked a little gloomy. Li Qianxue exchanged a few pleasantries with Wang Tao. Wei Ting stood there with a smile and dutifully held the umbrella for Li Qianxue. Su Qinghui looked at his actions and the proud look he cast at him. He narrowed his eyes, took a few steps to the side with his phone, and went to make a call. When he called, Li Junxing had already brought some leaders from the city, as well as Chief Zhou and the others over. Li Qianxue couldn't care less about Wei Ting at this moment and headed in the direction of Li Junxing and the others. Just as Wei Ting was about to continue following, his phone rang. He ran to the side to answer the phone. He didn't know what was said on the other end of the phone, but his expression changed drastically. He wanted to say goodbye to Li Qianxue before leaving. However, Li Qianxue happened to be talking to Li Junxing at this moment, so he could only quickly get into the car and leave first. After he left, Su Qinghui silently took out an umbrella from the back of his car and headed in Li Qianxue's direction. There were still more than 10 minutes before the groundbreaking ceremony at 10:00 sharp. Other than Li Junxing and the other leaders, there were also reporters from some major media outlets in the city. Yang Rong was dealing with the reporters, while Li Qianxue was talking to Li Junxing and the others about the project and the land next door. Just as she was engrossed in talking, an umbrella covered her head. She thought it was still Wei Ting, so she didn't think too much about it. She didn't even turn around. When Chief Zhou saw Su Qinghui behind her, he smiled. Then, he looked at the others and revealed a tacit look. At 5 minutes to 10, Li Junxing spoke first. Let's go, it's about to begin. Okay, this way please. As the main person in charge of this project, Li Qianxue bowed and gestured for the leaders to leave first. At this moment, Wang Tao came over. She smiled and gestured for Wang Tao to leave first. She followed behind Wang Tao. Wang Tao looked behind her and took a few steps forward with a smile. This side was the construction site that hadn't started yet. Even though the red carpet had been laid, it was still a little uneven. At the end of the red carpet was the place where the ribbon was cut. After the ribbon was cut, the groundbreaking ceremony would be held. For the sake of her image today, Li Qianxue wore a pair of high heels that weren't considered high. After taking 2 steps, she bumped into something and turned. Her body was about to fall. A hand quickly supported her body from behind. She instinctively took a step back, but she retreated into a warm chest. The tip of her nose smelled a faintly familiar scent. She suddenly turned around and widened her eyes when she saw that the person in front of her was Su Qinghui. "Why is it you?" One of Su Qinghui's hands was still on her waist, and the other hand was holding the umbrella. She wanted to take his hand away, but Su Qinghui looked at the stage. "It's about to begin. They're all waiting for us. Let's go." Who told him it was us? Where did it come from? Li Qianxue's expression didn't look good. She planned to treat Su Qinghui as a stranger. But he had been by her side for so long. Chapter 724. Let's go. Su Qinghui didn't seem to notice the anger on her face. "Mayor Li is going to speak later." Li Qianxue forced herself to squeeze out a smile and looked at the umbrella over her head. "You also know that you have to go on stage." Su Qinghui closed the umbrella and handed it to his assistant. "Of course. After all, I'm going up, aren't I?" Li Qianxue glanced at him coldly and took the opportunity to go up to the stage. Su Qinghui held her hand from behind and said softly, "The road is not easy to walk on. Let me help you." "No need." Li Qianxue withdrew her hand without a trace. "Don't touch me. I will walk properly." "Qianxue." Su Qinghui felt a little helpless. But Li Qianxue was already walking very fast. It was not the first time she had attended a groundbreaking ceremony. Over the years, the Li Corporation had done many projects, big and small. She really didn't need him. The two of them stepped onto the simple wooden platform one after the other. A red carpet was laid out on the stage. Li Junxing and Wang Tao stood in the middle. After the two of them went on stage, they stood on either side of Li Junxing. Everything else was going according to procedure. First, Li Junxing spoke on behalf of the city leaders, then Chief Zhou spoke, and finally, it was Li Qianxue's turn. She had the script that Yang Rong had typed for her a few days ago, but her memory had always been good. Such a scene was nothing to her. The sun was a little bright, and she was wearing a rose-red suit. It was not ostentatious, but it looked grand, which was in line with the festive atmosphere of today's opening. She first thanked the city leaders for their support for the Li Corporation's work and the group. Then, she thanked the Tianyu Group for its role in this matter. There were also the results of the cooperation between the two companies. Finally, he talked about the concept and philosophy of City Star, a fully intelligent community. Her speech took no more than 5 minutes. There were countless cameras aimed at her. She was already used to this kind of situation. After a round of speeches, it was time to cut the ribbon. Su Qinghui, who had been standing on the other side of Li Junxing just now, walked to her side. The hostess carried a golden plate and a pair of scissors tied with red silk to them onto the stage. Su Qinghui stood next to her and turned his face to look at her. This scene was really very familiar. The two of them stood together, cutting the ribbon and laying the foundation for a project. God knows how many times this had happened. Li Qianxue ignored the overly passionate gazes of the people around her and focused all her attention on what was in front of her. From now on, Su Qinghui was just a stranger. She thought about Su Qingsang's words for a long time. She didn't want to be with Su Qinghui for the rest of her life. So what if she tortured him every day? If she tortured him, wouldn't she become like him? She didn't want to. There was no need for her to throw away her bottom line for a man who didn't deserve it. Night. Today was Grandpa Dong's birthday banquet. Li Qianxue went as the representative of the Li family. Banquets like this in the past. Just let Su Yusin participate. She had come personally to give Grandpa Dong some face. This morning, the Li Corporation's groundbreaking ceremony was broadcast on TV. Not only on TV, but the Li Corporation also advertised on the internet and various major print media. When she entered the door, many people congratulated her. Li Qianxue chatted with those people, but after all, this was not her home ground. After chatting for a while, she chose a place near the corner and sat down. At this time, a message popped up on her phone. She, Su Qingsang, and Su Yusin had a WeChat chat group. From time to time, Su Qingsang would send some photos and videos of the twins. Li Qianxue's biggest hobby after work was to look at the photos Su Qingsang sent. The twins had been more than 3 months old. Xiang Nian could already turn over. Nian Nian was a little slower and didn't have enough strength. He lay on the bed and turned with all his might, but he could only turn his body sideways. He needed help to turn over completely. The photo was of the two of them lying there. After a while, a video was sent over. Hua Jinyao supported Xiang Nian's small body and tried his best to turn him over. The little guy was babbling in a language that the adults couldn't understand. He looked very funny and adorable. So cute. The voice that suddenly sounded was very familiar. Li Qianxue quickly put down her phone and looked up at the person. She shouldn't be surprised. She could come. Su Qinghui could naturally come too. She was about to stand up and leave, but when she thought of the thing she had suddenly figured out in the morning, she sat there very calmly. Su Qinghui looked at her in surprise. Today, Li Qianxue didn't seem to want to reject him, nor did she have the disgust that she couldn't hide when she saw him. Her expression could even be considered peaceful. Su Qinghui's surprise only lasted for a few seconds. He quickly thought of the reason for her expression. He glanced at her and sat down on the sofa next to her. His expression was a little cautious. Xiang Nian and Nian Nian are very cute, aren't they? Su Qinghui had gone to Rong City to see the two children before. As they grew up, they became more and more adorable. Li Qianxue glanced at him and her lips moved, but she didn't say a word. The last time I went to Rong City, the two little guys smiled at me. Li Qianxue closed her eyes. She didn't plan to speak, but when she heard this, she glanced at Su Qinghui. Su Qinghui. Her sudden words stunned Su Qinghui. Li Qianxue curled her lips, and there was a hint of mockery in her eyes. Did you go to Rong City to see Su Peixian? Su Qinghui choked and looked at Li Qianxue. Their eyes met. Su Qinghui looked at Li Qianxue's eyes and half lowered his eyes. I did. How has she been recently? Li Qianxue leaned forward a little and stared at Su Qinghui's face. No, or should I ask in another way? Does she still hate me? After all, she was the one who made a statement to break off relations with Su Peixian. With Su Peixian's personality, it should be difficult for her not to hate her, right? Su Qinghui was silent for a few seconds. Just when Li Qianxue thought he wouldn't answer, she heard his very soft voice. She's fine now. She doesn't hate anyone. Really? Li Qianxue didn't believe it. You have to believe that she's actually a good child. Su Qinghui's words were met with a cold smile from Li Qianxue. He looked up at her with a very serious expression. Peixian was taught by you. Even if she took things too hard and went on the wrong path, she was still taught by you. If you deny her, you are denying what you have done. Li Qianxue looked at Su Qinghui deeply because of his words. Is that so? But I have long denied all my efforts over the years. After all, I spent more than 20 years raising 2 ungrateful wolves. Isn't it a waste of my efforts? Su Qinghui was speechless, but Li Qianxue felt that it was meaningless. She had only thought it through this morning. She wanted to treat Su Qinghui as a stranger. Since she wanted to treat him as a stranger, why should she say these things? She was about to leave when she heard Su Qinghui's extremely low voice. No, it's not. He was looking at her now, his eyes burning. Your efforts were not in vain. Peijian asked me to tell you that she's sorry. She said that she knows that you don't need and don't want to hear it. However, she does owe you an apology. Silence. Li Qianxue sat there without moving. The banquet hall was very lively outside, but in Li Qianxue's area, it was dead silent. She sat there expressionlessly, just staring at Su Qinghui. Su Qinghui didn't avoid her gaze. His voice was very soft. Peijian has indeed changed now. She has also reduced her sentence because of her meritorious service. If you see her, you will know. Li Qianxue's lips were tightly pursed, and the back of her hands was a little white. She had raised Su Peijian for more than 20 years. She had carefully educated and nurtured her since she was a child. If in this marriage, Su Qinghui was the person who hurt her the most, Su Peijian was the second. It wasn't that she didn't give her a way out, nor was it that she didn't give her a choice. She could have done better, but she chose the one that hurt her heart the most. She dealt with Su Qingsang. Not to mention that she had already acknowledged Su Qingsang. Even if she didn't know Su Qingsang's identity in the past, she wouldn't have agreed with her. She taught Su Peijian to have a big picture and foresight. In the end, she used her mind on those unorthodox ways. Su Peijian paid the price, but for her, she also lost a daughter. Even if this daughter wasn't born to her. What does it have to do with me? Li Qianxue's expression was very cold. She is no longer my daughter. I don't want to see her either. She had clearly said that she would treat Su Qinghui as a stranger. However, a few casual words from him made her recall those unpleasant things again. Even if she was the one who started this, it still made her uncomfortable. Li Qianxue couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up abruptly, turned around, and walked outside. Su Qinghui stood up with her and followed behind her. Li Qianxue greeted Old Master Dong and said that she had something urgent to attend to, so she left first. With Li Qianxue's status, Old Master Dong was very happy that she could come. He was extremely polite and asked her to go about her own business. He also asked his son to send Li Qianxue on her way. Li Qianxue refused. Old Master Dong saw Su Qinghui behind her and revealed a smile that explained why. Li Qianxue didn't see that smile. If she did, she would probably be even more gloomy. The night wind was cool. There wasn't a single star in the sky. The sun was shining brightly during the day, but now it was covered with dark clouds. It looked like there would be rain at night. The humidity in the air not only didn't make Li Qianxue feel depressed, but it also increased a lot. Especially when she knew that Su Qinghui was following behind her, her footsteps became faster and faster. She looked at the parking lot at the other end of the hotel. Xiao Zhao had parked the car there. She could call him and ask him to drive over, but she would rather walk by herself to calm down. When she was about to cross the road, a car in front of her drove quite fast. Qianxue. Su Qinghui, who was behind her, quickly stepped forward and pulled her body back. The impact caused Li Qianxue's body to crash into Su Qinghui's arms. He held her and took 2 big steps back before he stabilized his body. Be careful. Li Qianxue was thinking about something just now, so she really didn't notice. Now that she reacted, she reached out to push Su Qinghui. Su Qinghui, stay away from me. If he hadn't followed behind her, she wouldn't have thought of walking faster. Qianxue, stop. Li Qianxue took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. What do you want to say? Do you want me to forgive Su Peijian? Or do you want me to forgive you? Qianxue, I didn't mean that. I don't care what you mean. Li Qianxue thought of her previous plan. She had always avoided talking about it in the past, thinking that it would be fine as long as she stayed away from Su Qinghui. Now, she wanted to make things clear with him. Su Qinghui, I just want to tell you. Everything you're doing now is useless to me. It's useless. First, I hate you. I hate you very much. The best I can do is not to take revenge on you. But I can't not hate you. I don't want to forgive you either. I don't want to forgive Su Peijian. Second. Whether it's Qingsang or Yusin, they've all grown up. They don't need your fatherly love anymore. I don't need your compensation, and neither do the two children, so why do you have to say anything about compensation? Finally, if you really feel guilty, if you really feel that you've let me down, and Su Peijian feels that she's let me down, then what you can do is to stay away from us, and further away. Understand? Su Qinghui saw that she was about to turn around and leave. He stepped forward and grabbed her arm. He was very flustered, suddenly very flustered. He understood that Li Qianxue suddenly wanted to draw a line with him. Qianxue, you know that's impossible. Yusin and Qingsang are both my children. How can I stay away? You still have Su Peijian, but I only have Qingsang and Yusin. Li Qianxue refused. I don't want to stop you from accepting the two children, but from what you said just now, you've clearly made a choice. You made the same choice as you did 20 years ago. If that's the case, what else do I have to say to you? I didn't. Su Qinghui held her shoulder. You can't accuse me like this. I didn't think that way, and I didn't choose that way. No. Then why did you tell me just now that Peijian is a good child? If she's a good child, then what about my two children? I didn't mean that. I just wanted to tell you that Peijian has really changed. Besides, you've raised her for so long. You should know her character. Yes, I've raised her for so long, but I can't see through her when I'm in the middle. Just like how I thought you were an honest person before, but what about your character? So what? Qianxue. It's not fair to me for you to treat me like this. I was just impulsive back then, and I regretted it afterward. For the first time, Su Qinghui dissected his heart in front of her. I was a little angry at that time, but after that, I regretted it. I really regretted it. It wasn't just because he regretted divorcing Li Qianxue. For the past 20 years, whenever he thought about it, there wasn't a time when he didn't regret it. At first, it was impulsive, but later, it was unclear. When he wanted to say it, he couldn't say it anymore. He couldn't explain these things to Li Qianxue. He also couldn't tell her that he had long given up on revenge. Chapter 725. Impulse was the devil. Now, Su Qinghui had fully understood this sentence. At that time, he was indeed impulsive. Later, he wanted to explain his incompetence. During the process, he was afraid that others would see through him. Even though he knew that he felt guilty toward Su Qingsang, he didn't dare to show too much intimacy. All of this was his fault. He couldn't say more to defend himself. His voice became very soft, and there was a hint of helplessness in his bitterness. I really just did it on impulse. Li Qianxue looked at him and found that she was a little out of control. This wasn't good. She still remembered and was still conflicted, which meant that she hadn't let go. She had to learn to let go. The wind seemed to be colder. Li Qianxue looked at Su Qinghui and took a step back. It is said that the feelings between men and women are also caused by impulse. Li Qianxue's voice was very soft. She looked at him with a slightly cold gaze. Because of impulse, I fell in love with someone. Because of impulse, I wanted to get someone. After getting him, I realized that impulse really hurt people. She used his words to counter him. Su Qinghui's hand relaxed just like that. Li Qianxue took another big step back. As soon as she turned around, a gust of wind blew over. Li Qianxue's footsteps paused for a moment. In that instant, big drops of rain fell from above her head. She stood on the side of the road, and there was nowhere to hide. Of course, Su Qinghui saw it too. In a short while, he quickly took off his suit jacket and covered her head. It's raining very heavily. Let me send you to the car first. There was no umbrella now, and the car wasn't here. If she refused again, she was afraid that she would be completely wet. Li Qianxue's body didn't move, and her back was stiff. Su Qinghui looked at her with a slightly helpless expression. Would you rather get sick than accept my help? Yes. Li Qianxue nodded. I'd rather get sick than accept your help. The atmosphere was stagnant, and the rain outside was getting heavier and heavier. Su Qinghui felt helpless and sighed softly. Why do you have to do this? If you get wet and get sick, won't you worry the old master? Even if you accept my help this time, so what? Of course, what would happen? Li Qianxue wanted to say, but the rain above her head was indeed getting heavier. Su Qinghui covered her head with his suit jacket. Most of his body was already wet. Li Qianxue still wanted to say something, but Su Qinghui walked to her side and gently touched her with his shoulder. Let's go. If the rain gets any heavier, we won't be able to leave. Li Qianxue's footsteps were very slow, but she was led forward by him. The rain was getting heavier and heavier, and Su Qinghui was almost completely soaked. Li Qianxue's upper body was protected by him and covered with a suit, so she didn't get wet at all. However, the high heels on her feet affected her speed, especially when going up and down the stairs. Su Qinghui used his shoulder as support. He held the corner of his suit jacket with one hand and held her shoulder with the other, so that she wouldn't fall. When Su Qinghui's shoulder touched her, Li Qianxue's body stiffened for a moment. His scent was still on the jacket, a scent she was all too familiar with. Realizing that she was distracted, Li Qianxue quickened her pace. Get in the car. Su Qinghui's car was parked opposite the hotel. He opened the car door. It was too late for Li Qianxue to retreat. She could only get in the car. Her head wasn't much wet, but her body and feet were wet. Su Qinghui kept his suit jacket on her head so that she wouldn't be drenched in the rain. Su Qinghui was completely drenched. He closed the car door and quickly went around to the other side to get in the car. He opened the locker in front of him, took out a clean towel, and handed it to Li Qianxue. You can wipe it. No need. She sat there and didn't want to take it. You can use it yourself. Wipe the water off your body. I'll send you home. Su Qinghui was very stubborn. He put the towel in Li Qianxue's hand, took out a tissue on the table, and casually wiped the water off his face. Li Qianxue looked at him and her gaze fell on the towel in her hand. She wasn't actually very wet. Just now, Su Qinghui was blocking the direction of the wind, so the rain fell on him. She casually wiped herself twice and handed the towel back to Su Qinghui. Thank you. Su Qinghui took the towel from her hand and thanked her. Li Qianxue frowned slightly. He was the one who gave her the towel. She used it, and he was thanking her. Su Qinghui dried his hair. It was actually very wet. It was really uncomfortable. He glanced at Li Qianxue. It takes at least an hour and a half to drive back to the Li family. Why don't you go to my place? You can take a shower and change your clothes. Su Qinghui. My company is nearby, Xingda Garden. Do you remember it? I've been living there for more than a year. If you don't have time to send me home, I can ask Xiao Zhao to pick me up. Qianxue, I don't want to do anything to you. I just want to tell you that it's only 10 minutes from here to Xingda Garden. Even if you ask Xiao Zhao to pick you up, it'll take you an hour and a half to get back to the Li family. Are you sure you want to wear these wet clothes for an hour and a half? Li Qianxue was silent. She was a little misophobic. It was fine if her upper body was clean. Her pants were all stuck to her body because of the rain, and her shoes were also wet. She felt very uncomfortable. Don't worry, it's just a matter of taking a shower and changing clothes. Su Qinghui saw that Li Qianxue still wanted to refuse, so he couldn't help but add, I don't want you to catch a cold. This sudden concern made Li Qianxue's face darken. Before she could say anything, Su Qinghui had already started the car. She wanted to stop him, but she couldn't say it. The rain was very heavy. Even with the windshield wipers on, the road ahead couldn't be seen clearly. Su Qinghui's car was very slow. It wasn't the evening rush hour yet, and there were many cars on the road in Lin City. There were several buildings in this area that were built by the Li family back then. 2 of them were built by her and Su Qinghui together. Su Qinghui's car turned a corner in front of him. He glanced at her from the corner of his eye and followed her line of sight to see the buildings in front of him, including the building at the end of the road. The neighborhood he was living in now, Xingda Garden. There's a new school next to Xingda Garden, and the price has increased a lot. Second-hand houses are in high demand. His voice made Li Qianxue turn her gaze to look at him. Su Qinghui was focused on driving and didn't seem to notice her gaze. I still remember that you and I worked overtime for many days for this Xingda Garden. Li Qianxue didn't say anything, but she naturally remembered. She wouldn't deny her cooperation with Su Qinghui in business. She also wouldn't deny that Su Qinghui, who was serious about his work and always had a good eye, really made her heart flutter at that time. She still remembered that the land in Xingda Garden wasn't big back then. After calculating the green rate and floor area ratio, the neighborhood wasn't big enough. At that time, the housing prices in Lin City had just begun to rise. The planning department and the development department wanted to build single apartments. Small apartments. One had to know that in those years, single apartments were also very popular. But Su Qinghui didn't agree. He led his people to investigate the surrounding environment, did interviews, and submitted a report. He said that there were several schools in this area. There were primary schools, middle schools, and international kindergartens. In the future, there would definitely be many young couples who wanted to buy houses in this area. Of course, young people and investors would buy single apartments, but those who were more capable and could continue to stay were definitely young couples with children. At that time, there was no concept of so-called school district housing, but Su Qinghui stood his ground and resisted the pressure of the board of directors. Through hard work, he bought a piece of land next to it, and that was how the current Xingda Tea Garden came into being. Not long after the market opened, the concept of school district housing began to appear. And Su Qinghui only asked people to publicize in this direction. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the concept of school district housing to appear. Especially after the third high school near Xingda had a few top students in the college entrance examination, it was hard to find a house in Xingda. There were even people and relatives of the Li family who came to buy houses. At that time, Li Qianxue was one of the few people who supported Su Qinghui. Her recognition of his work ability made her put aside her prejudices and accept every decision he made. During that time, Su Qinghui was responsible for doing the outside work well and solving the outside problems. And she was responsible for solving the opposition within the company. Under such sincere cooperation, it could be considered one of the few times they got along very well. No, it wasn't just that time. For a long time, as long as the two of them didn't get involved in family matters, if they only talked about the company, the atmosphere between the two of them could be considered good. The sound of the rain was very loud, and the car was very quiet. Li Qianxue didn't respond to Su Qinghui's words. She thought that perhaps she had defined it wrong from the beginning. Su Qinghui would be a very good collaborator and work partner, but he might not be a very good husband or a qualified father. She should have understood this back then. If that was the case, their ending might be different now. Qianxue. We're here. While she was distracted, the car had already stopped in the underground parking lot where Su Qinghui lived. Li Qianxue got out of the car and looked at the environment in front of her. They had participated in the design of the building and the design of the building at that time. She was the one who had decided on this apartment because it faced the artificial lake in the middle of the neighborhood. From afar, she could see a park in front. During the divorce, she had given this apartment to Su Qinghui in order to get him to sign it quickly. She didn't expect him to live here. She thought that with his pride, he wouldn't be willing to live in the apartment she gave him. You like this neighborhood very much. Do you still remember it? Su Qinghui led her in the direction of the elevator. His voice was gentle, and she could faintly hear a trace of nostalgia. Li Qianxue looked at her high heels that were wet by the rain and didn't respond to his words. In her heart, she had already vaguely guessed why Su Qinghui lived here. Li Qianxue had many properties under her name, but the apartment she left behind in Qingda Garden was a little different. She had personally participated in the renovation of this apartment, and it was designed according to her preferences. At that time, she liked this floor and this apartment design very much. She had planned to give this apartment to Su Yusin as a birthday present, so she put more effort into it than other places. The sound of the elevator reminded her that she was distracted again. The stickiness on her body made her very uncomfortable. She stepped out of the elevator with a cold face. Su Qinghui looked at her and didn't say anything. He calmly opened the door with his fingerprint lock and motioned for Li Qianxue to enter. Li Qianxue took a look at the door. The furniture was still the same as what she had originally picked. It was also very clean. It wasn't to the extent of being devoid of life, but it wasn't like a normal single apartment, which always looked messy. Su Qinghui entered the door one step ahead of her. He casually threw his coat on the porch. You should take a shower first. He found a new pair of slippers, a bath towel, and toiletries. No one has used the guest bathroom. You can take a shower there. He said this because he was afraid that Li Qianxue would mind. Li Qianxue glanced at him and didn't say anything. Or, would you prefer to take a bath in the bathroom in the master bedroom? As if realizing that his words could easily be misunderstood, Su Qinghui added, I don't really use the bathtub. But I have asked the auntie to disinfect and clean it regularly. Most of Li Qianxue's body was sticky and wet, so naturally, it was uncomfortable. She usually liked to take a bath at home. It was a rare time of day for her to relax. Come with me. Su Qinghui seemed to know what she was thinking. He, who knew her habits very well, quickly went to the master bedroom. Li Qianxue took 2 steps and stood there with some hesitation. Su Qinghui came out very quickly. The water is ready. You can go take a shower first. Li Qianxue glanced at him and didn't refuse. She turned around and went to the bathroom. The master bedroom was very clean and tidy. The quilt was folded neatly, and there was a book on the bedside. The room wasn't big, but it was filled with Su Qinghui's scent. At this moment, Li Qianxue regretted it. She couldn't help but walk out. She wanted to go to the guest bathroom outside and take a quick shower. However, as soon as she walked out, she saw Su Qinghui's back as he entered the guest bathroom. Li Qianxue stood there and didn't move. After thinking for a while, she continued. The jacuzzi was very big, and she had chosen it. The warm water washed over her body, eliminating most of the discomfort of being drenched in the rain. Li Qianxue closed her eyes. Her body was comfortable, but her heart began to feel annoyed. She must have gone crazy today to follow Su Qinghui home. She even took a bath in his bathroom. However, when Li Qianxue saw Su Qinghui say to her, "I don't want you to catch a cold," she inexplicably agreed. Thinking of this, Li Qianxue couldn't even feel at ease taking a bath. The annoyance in her heart increased. This bath was very long. After half an hour, Li Qianxue finally cleaned herself up. She put on the bathrobe that Su Qinghui had prepared, tied the belt tightly, and checked it again and again. Li Qianxue decided to go out and get her phone to call Xiao Zhao. He should still be waiting for her near the hotel banquet hall. She asked him to bring her a set of clothes. She just left the room. Before she could get her phone, she saw Su Qinghui's figure coming out of the kitchen. "You're done bathing." "Just in time. Let's eat something." In front of her, Su Qinghui was wearing a suit of home clothes. He came out of the kitchen with a bowl in his hand. Chapter 726. You didn't eat anything at night before you left. You should eat something. Li Qianxue stood there without moving and watched Su Qinghui put the bowl on the dining table. She smelled the faint aroma of food in the air. Her lips pursed into a straight line. Su Qinghui knew how to cook. Her hand was still hanging above her bag. The bag was already wet, and there were still water droplets on it. She retracted her fingertips and looked at Su Qinghui. He had just taken a shower, and his hair was still a little damp. He put the bowl in his hand on the dining table, turned around, and went to the kitchen again. Li Qianxue stood there and watched him bring out another bowl. It was only then that she saw clearly that the bowl was filled with noodles. "Come over and eat," Su Qinghui called her. Li Qianxue stood there without moving. She took out her phone again and planned to call Xiao Zhao. "Do you want Xiao Zhao to buy you clothes? Even if he comes over, he won't be so fast, right? Or are you afraid that I'll poison the noodles?" Su Qinghui's self-deprecation didn't get Li Qianxue's praise. She stood there with a cold face and insisted on calling Xiao Zhao. No one answered. She didn't give up and called again, but still no one answered. Li Qianxue wanted to curse. Every time at a critical moment, Xiao Zhao would drop the bowl. "Let's eat. Aren't you hungry?" Su Qinghui called her again. "If you don't come over and eat, the noodles will be cold." Li Qianxue stood there without moving. Her lips were tightly pursed, forming a cold straight line. Holding the phone, she called Xiao Zhao again. Before the phone was picked up, Su Qinghui had already walked in front of her, took the phone away, and put it aside. "It's just a bowl of noodles. You don't have to be so nervous, do you?" Before Li Qianxue could react, he had already led her to the dining table, pulled out a chair, and asked her to sit down. In front of her was a bowl of steaming noodles. She smelled the aroma of the food as soon as she sat down. The noodles were beef noodles. Thinly sliced marinated beef, with vegetables underneath and a layer of chopped green onions. It looked very delicious. Li Qianxue sat still until Su Qinghui stuffed a pair of chopsticks into her hand. "Don't worry, It's really not poisoned. Li Qianxue held the chopsticks in her hand, and her body was a little stiff. Su Qinghui had already turned to the other side and sat down. Seeing that she was still in a daze, he looked up and asked, "Are you really not hungry?" Li Qianxue wanted to say that she wasn't hungry, but at that moment, her stomach let out a loud growl. She didn't look good. She had a meeting at noon, so she didn't feel like eating after lunch. In the evening, she went to the banquet hall. Before she had time to eat, she ran into Su Qinghui and left early. "Let's eat. It shouldn't taste bad." Li Qianxue was quite picky about what she ate. Although the Li family usually focused on bland food, the more bland the food was, the more it showed the chef's skills. Preserving the original flavor of food was much more difficult to make than heavy oil and spicy food. She didn't want to eat it at first, but in the current situation, it didn't seem to make a difference whether she ate it or not. She went to Su Qinghui's house, took a shower, and then had dinner. Li Qianxue didn't think too much about it. She picked up some noodles with her chopsticks and tasted it. She was stunned for a moment after taking a bite. The taste was indeed good. Cooking noodles seemed easy, but in fact, a little more or a little less heat would affect the taste of the noodles. She couldn't help but look up at Su Qinghui. He focused on eating the noodles. Occasionally, he raised his head and suddenly smiled when his eyes met hers. "Is it bad?" Li Qianxue didn't say anything. She really couldn't say that such noodles tasted bad. After all, it wasn't bad. The bowl was a big one, and she didn't have a big appetite. After eating half of it, she put down her chopsticks. In fact, she didn't eat much at night. Su Qinghui had a good appetite. He finished all the noodles. He found that she still had half a bowl left. He didn't force her to eat. Instead, he took her bowl and started eating. Li Qianxue's expression was a little bad. "I've eaten this before." "I know. Why are you still eating if you know?" Li Qianxue looked at Su Qinghui and picked up the chopsticks. The pair of chopsticks was used by her. "It's not good to waste food." Su Qinghui's words made Li Qianxue don't know what to say for a moment. It's not good to waste food. The Li family was considered an aristocratic family. Although Old Master Li had always advocated saving, it was impossible for the kitchen to cook perfectly. Why hadn't Su Qinghui been like this before? Before she could say anything, Su Qinghui had already finished the rest of her noodles. Li Qianxue was very embarrassed. He used the chopsticks she had used to eat the leftover noodles, which made her feel very uncomfortable. She even had a feeling that he did it on purpose to make her feel uncomfortable. Su Qinghui got up, put the bowl in the kitchen, and came out. There would naturally be hourly workers to clean up tomorrow. Now he wanted to spend time with Li Qianxue. Li Qianxue went to the living room. She was about to call Xiao Zhao again. Su Qinghui came over and sat down next to her. "Aren't you curious about how I know how to cook?" Li Qianxue stopped making the phone call. "Why should I be curious?" "But I want to tell you." "But I don't want to know." Li Qianxue lowered her head and was about to make another call. Su Qinghui took her phone away again and put it aside. "You know what? Ever since I divorced you, I've learned a lot of things." "Really?" Li Qianxue wasn't in a hurry to snatch the phone back. "So, should you thank me for divorcing you?" "I'm grateful to you, not because you divorced me." Su Qinghui looked at her focused gaze, and he could see her shadow in it. "It's because of your tolerance and patience for me all these years." Putting aside the fact that he had replaced Su Qingsang and Su Peijian, Su Qinghui also knew that he had not fulfilled his responsibilities as a husband to Li Qianxue all these years. Only Li Qianxue, who looked smart and capable, was very stubborn when it came to relationships. She knew that he didn't love her, but she still plunged in and endured it for so many years. For more than a year, he had worked hard and tried his best to get close to her, but it didn't change Li Qianxue's opinion of him. It had already made him uncomfortable, painful, and conflicted. But what about Li Qianxue? There were some things that couldn't be thought about. Thinking about it made him feel heart-wrenching pain. Su Qinghui held Li Qianxue's hand and looked at her with a gentle gaze that he had never seen before. I didn't do a good job in the past, whether it's being a husband or a father, but I will work hard in the future. I will be a qualified husband and a qualified father. Qianxue. I don't expect you to give me a chance anymore. It's your freedom to give me a chance or not. I just hope that I can always follow you, accompany you, and help you when you need it. Whether you believe it or not, this is what I hope for now. His grip was slightly tight, and there was a burning warmth in it. In the past, Li Qianxue only hoped that he would have her in his eyes, but she couldn't see her in his eyes. At this moment, she found her in his eyes, and his eyes were filled with her shadow. Li Qianxue felt an electric current pass from his hand to her hand, and then from her hand to her heart. She could clearly hear her heartbeat quicken. She tried to look away, and then she tried to pull back her hand. However, there was only Su Qinghui's serious face in front of her. I love you. I'm willing to use the rest of my life to fulfill my determination. I'll let you know that I'm serious. Qianxue, please believe me. I really love you. The living room was very quiet. Even at this age, Li Qianxue had pitifully little experience in love. All her experience in love came from Su Qinghui. Her silent reaction was not within Su Qinghui's expectations. He thought that she didn't believe him, and he didn't intend to say more. It was better to do more than to say more. He would definitely show it to him. Qianxue, just watch me in the future. Li Qianxue hadn't recovered from that realization. Her phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Xiao Zhao. Li Qianxue quickly retracted her hand and sat up straight. Her face was cold. It's useless. I don't need your company, and I won't need your help. Qianxue. Li Qianxue didn't look at him and picked up the phone. Madam, where are you? Xiao Zhao had just gone to the toilet. When he came back, he found that there were many missed calls on his hand. It's still raining heavily. Are you still in the banquet hall? Do you want me to drive to the door to pick you up? No need. I'm not in the hotel now. Come to Xingda Garden to pick me up. Xingda Garden. Xiao Zhao looked confused. Why did you go to Xingda Garden? Yes. Li Qianxue didn't want to explain further. When you come over, bring me a set of clothes. Clothes? Are your clothes wet? Yes. Li Qianxue looked at the time. There should be a department store nearby that's not closed yet. Come pick me up after you buy some clothes. Drive the car directly to the underground parking lot of Building 8. Okay, I got it. Xiao Zhao hung up the phone. Li Qianxue found that Su Qinghui had gone to the kitchen at some point. When he came out again, he was holding a glass of juice in his hand. Cherry juice. You'll like it. Li Qianxue looked at the glass of juice and didn't reach out. She looked up at Su Qinghui with undisguised displeasure in her eyes. Su Qinghui, don't do these things. It's useless. Qianxue. Whether you learn to cook or learn anything, it has nothing to do with me. Li Qianxue's voice was cold. I don't want to know, and I don't care. Of course, if you are willing to stay away from me in the future, I think I will be more grateful to you. The only thing I need you to do is to stay away from me and don't appear in front of me again. Okay, I got it. Su Qinghui nodded, but he still placed the glass of juice in her hand. However, I can't stay away from you now. After all, you're at my house. You drink it. I don't think you ate much for dinner. Su Qinghui pulled her hand and let her take the glass of juice. I squeezed it just now and put it in the fridge. It's just right to drink now. Li Qianxue held the glass of cold cherry juice and looked at Su Qinghui. In the end, she couldn't help but say, it seems that after leaving the Li Corporation, you're getting worse and worse. Not only do you have time to cook, but you also have time to do these things. It's not too bad. Su Qinghui smiled. Actually, I would have done it before the divorce. I just didn't spend time on it. After all, the Li family wasn't a place where he needed to do anything. Good disguise. He clearly knew how to do it, but he pretended not to. She had really been fooled by him for so many years. Qianxue, if it weren't for the fact that you can't control the weather, I would have reason to suspect that even if it didn't rain today, you would have found a way to bring me here. Right? Qianxue, I'm not that cunning. Yes, you're not that cunning. You just have a way to deceive me and take revenge on me. Qianxue. All right. I don't want to talk to you. Now either you go away, or I go away. Su Qinghui looked at her side profile. In the end, he couldn't say that he didn't want to go away. In the end, he could only stand up and return to his room. Not long after Su Qinghui returned to his room, Xiao Zhao came. He was carrying a few bags in his hand. Other than high-end custom-made clothes, Li Qianxue also had a few brands that she liked. Xiao Zhao was her chauffeur. Every time she went shopping, he would help her carry the bags. A few of the shop assistants at the counter knew him. Without needing him to say anything, they directly matched a set of clothes and sent it to Li Qianxue. Wait for me for a while. I'll change and go home. Li Qianxue changed her clothes and came out. She found that Su Qinghui had also left the room. Seeing her come out, Su Qinghui's face was a little disappointed. You're leaving. Li Qianxue didn't even look at Su Qinghui. She just walked forward. When Li Qianxue heard this, she left without looking back. Su Qinghui stood there and watched her back disappear behind the door. He turned around and saw the glass of juice on the coffee table. However, he didn't drink a single mouthful. It was still full. Su Qinghui took a step forward and picked up the glass of cherry juice to take a sip. He had clearly tasted it before. It was sweet. Now that he drank it again, it felt extremely bitter. When Li Qianxue entered the venue, she saw a few familiar faces. Today was the Top 10 Youth Award ceremony in Lin City. She was invited to be the presenter. With her status in Lin City, she was indeed very suitable. The Li family never minded promoting new people. Hua Jinyao and Qiu Yanbo were among the top 10 youth last year. She had glanced at this year's top 10 youth before. She found that other than Wang Tao and Wei Ting, she didn't know any of the rest. It was normal for Wang Tao to be chosen first. As the president of Tianyu Group in Lin City, he represented the direction of Tianyu Group's decision-making. He was worthy of this award. However, she didn't expect Wei Ting to win this award as well. It surprised her a little. After entering the door, her seat was at the front. Coincidentally, she saw a few familiar faces. Li Junxing, Chief Zhou, Chief Qin, Chief Gao, and Secretary Li were all old acquaintances. After greeting the leaders, she sat down on the seat with her nameplate. As she sat down, she also saw that the seat next to hers was Su Qinghui's. Li Qianxue's face darkened when she saw those 3 words. It was true that he was everywhere. Chapter 727. That day, Su Qinghui took her to his apartment. Although he didn't do anything to her, the words he said to her successfully made her have a dream that night. In her dream, Su Qinghui's voice echoed over and over again. Qianxue, watch me in the future. Qianxue, I love you. Qianxue, let me stay with you. Li Qianxue closed her eyes and shook off the nightmare of that night. Yes, that's right. To her, it was a nightmare. Li Qianxue rubbed her temples. The last person she wanted to see right now was probably Su Qinghui. When she found that no one was paying attention to her, she picked up Su Qinghui's business card and moved to the seat next to hers. She didn't want to sit with Su Qinghui, not at all. However, just as she was about to put Su Qinghui's name tag on the leader's seat, the name tag in her hand was gently taken away. Li Qianxue's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly felt like she had been caught red-handed. He looked at the newcomer awkwardly. Su Qinghui stood next to her, holding a name tag in one hand and leaning his other hand on the table, looking at her. He curled his lips and looked at her with a faint smile. Li Qianxue's face was inexplicably hot. Give it back. Give it back to you. Su Qinghui looked at the name on it. Are you sure? Before Li Qianxue could finish her sentence, Su Qinghui suddenly approached her and said, Qianxue, I really didn't know that you still. Li Qianxue heard the unfinished meaning in his words and blushed for a moment. She was half angry, half annoyed. She tried her best to resist the urge to snatch the name tag from Su Qinghui's hand, but her expression was quite unsightly. You're overthinking. I just wanted to put the name tag back on. Yes. Su Qinghui nodded. Not only did he not deny her words, but he also followed her words and said, You even want to correct my name tag when you see it is crooked. I really didn't think too much. There was a hint of a smile in his voice. Li Qianxue had never seen this side of Su Qinghui. For a moment, she didn't know whether to be angry or angry. Su Qinghui, I understand even if you don't explain. As Su Qinghui spoke, he calmly put the nameplate away. Of course, he placed it in its original position. His business card was right next to Li Qianxue. Just this knowledge alone made him a lot happier. He was a little surprised. After all, he was not a kid in his 20s. How could he be satisfied so easily? By the time Li Qianxue realized what was going on, Su Qinghui had already sat down with a faint smile on his face. That smile made Li Qianxue feel that it was inexplicably dazzling. Just as she was about to say something, Wei Ting stood in front of her. Qianxue, I'm so happy. You know what? You're the one who's giving me the award today. Really? Li Qianxue didn't expect that she would be the one to present the award to Wei Ting. Then congratulations in advance. Thank you. With a smile on his face, Wei Ting leaned forward a little more. Qianxue, the person who presented the award to me was you. This is what makes me happy. As for the prize, I don't really care. As he spoke, he glanced at Su Qinghui with a hint of pride in his eyes. Su Qinghui was as still as a mountain, sitting calmly in his seat. Su Qinghui naturally noticed Wei Ting's provocative gaze. President Su is here today too. Wei Ting seemed to have just noticed him. What a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Su Qinghui's voice was indifferent. I happen to be one of the presenters today. Since it was the top 10 young men, there were naturally 10 presenters. Su Qinghui's tone didn't change, but the meaning revealed in his eyes made Wei Ting's pride dissipate a little. He was here to present the award, and he was here to receive the award. What was there to be proud of? President Su is old, so naturally, he can only do things like presenting the award. After all, with President Su's age, he has nothing to do with young people. Right? Indeed, it has nothing to do with young people. Su Qinghui nodded and didn't intend to refute his words. So, President Wei wants to ask, is Chen Chua also old? I didn't mean that. Wei Ting quickly looked at Li Qianxue, his face a little nervous. Li Qianxue already despised his young age. If she misunderstood him like this, it would be even worse. Li Qianxue had a headache. Before she could say anything, the main leader had already entered, and the venue was much livelier than before. President Wei. Su Qinghui's voice was very indifferent. It's about to start. Your seat seems to be over there. Qianxue, I really didn't mean that. Wei Ting didn't want to leave. He still wanted to explain to Li Qianxue clearly. I know. Go and sit down first. Wei Ting saw that Li Qianxue really didn't look like she was going to be angry, so he was more or less relieved. However, in order to celebrate my award, why don't we have dinner together tonight? We'll see. Promise me first. Wei Ting looked aggrieved. Look, I won another award, and you're the one who gave me the award. Isn't this fate destined by the heavens? Such fate is worth eating to celebrate, right? Wei Ting. It's decided. I'll come back later to confirm the time with you. Before Li Qianxue could say anything, Wei Ting had already turned around and walked towards his seat. Su Qinghui sat at the side and heard the conversation between the two of them clearly. He curled his lips slightly and turned his face to look at Li Qianxue. Do you really like such an unsteady and immature young man? This doesn't seem to have anything to do with you. Of course it has something to do with me. Su Qinghui tilted his body and got closer and closer to her. If you like this kind of person, I can only be wronged for a while. Let me become like this, an immature and unsteady young man. Su Qinghui. Li Qianxue turned her head and could see Su Qinghui's enlarged face in front of her. She looked at the light in his eyes expressionlessly. First, Wei Ting isn't what you said. He also has a mature and steady side. Second, whether I like a person or not has nothing to do with his personality. But there's one thing I'm very clear about. What? I definitely won't like someone who cheats people's feelings. Su Qinghui suddenly fell silent because of her words. Li Qianxue felt that the world was quiet. She sat up straight and looked ahead. Su Qinghui and Li Qianxue had been to the top 10 youth award ceremony more than once. The process was similar every year. The leader's speech was the theme of this year's award ceremony. Each young man who won the award went on stage to receive the award and then gave an acceptance speech. Li Qianxue glanced at the time and saw that everyone had about 10 minutes. Wei Ting was the seventh, and Wang Tao was behind him. After she flipped through the award catalog and their usual deeds, she found that Su Qinghui had sat down in his seat. She glanced at him and didn't quite understand what he was doing at such a time. However, Li Qianxue soon found out. When it was Wei Ting's turn, the host first read out Wei Ting's name and then introduced what he had done. Finally, the host began to announce, "Now, let's invite the president of Qianhui Limited Company, Mr. Su Qinghui, to present the award to the winners." Li Qianxue was about to stand up, but the introduction made her stop in her tracks. She turned to look at Su Qinghui. He received her gaze and smiled at her. Then, he stood up and walked to the stage. Li Qianxue looked at his back and thought about what Su Qinghui had done just now. Could it be that he didn't want her to go on stage to present the award to Wei Ting, so he deliberately changed the award presenter to him? As soon as this thought came to mind, Li Qianxue almost immediately wanted to deny it. Would Su Qinghui be such a childish person? Thinking about his age and his usual personality, Li Qianxue really couldn't figure it out. When Wei Ting heard that the award presenter was Su Qinghui, his expression changed slightly, but only for a moment. He was on stage and was broadcasting live to all the people of Lin City. Su Qinghui went on stage and walked in front of Wei Ting calmly. He picked up the red ribbon from the etiquette lady and was about to put it on Wei Ting, but Wei Ting didn't lower his head cooperatively. He looked at Su Qinghui with a flash of hostility in his eyes. "President Su, you seem to be the next award presenter, right?" His voice was very soft, but the hostility in his gaze only increased. In order to coincide with the award ceremony, exciting music sounded in the hall. Su Qinghui raised the ribbon high, with a faint smile on his face. "President Wei's main point today is to receive the award. It doesn't seem to matter who will present the award to you, right?" His voice was also very soft. The people below the stage could only see the two of them smiling harmoniously. Wei Ting gritted his teeth and glared at Su Qinghui with ridicule in his eyes. "President Su, it doesn't seem to make sense for you to be jealous. After all, you're already divorced. Isn't that right? You can get back together after a divorce, but someone like President Wei probably won't have a chance." When Su Qinghui spoke, he didn't need Wei Ting to lower his head and helped him put on the ribbon. Now that there were so many people, even if Wei Ting was unwilling, he could only squeeze out a smile. "Don't be smug. I'm still young. It's not up to you to decide whether I have a chance or not." "Indeed." Su Qinghui turned around and took the golden trophy and certificate from the etiquette lady. He placed them in Wei Ting's hands. "After all, even if I divorce Qinxue, we still have 2 children. My relationship with her can't be broken, but it's much more difficult for you to establish a relationship with her." Wei Ting's expression finally cracked a little. Just as he was about to change his expression, Su Qinghui had already stood to the side. Countless cameras were aimed at the two of them. Su Qinghui was calm and composed, while Wei Ting, when the news came out in the newspapers and on the internet the next day, everyone thought that Wei Ting's slightly distorted face was too excited. Yes, that's right, if that expression was excitement. After Su Qinghui presented the award to Wei Ting, he returned to his seat. Wei Ting still had to give an acceptance speech, so he couldn't leave so quickly. When Su Qinghui walked to his seat and sat down, he found that Li Qianxue was staring at his face. "I didn't know that you had such a trick up your sleeve." "You're welcome." Su Qinghui glanced at her with a gentle gaze. "The host and I happen to have a little friendship. I said that Wei Ting and I are very good friends, and I hope to have this honor. He helped me change it without thinking. Not to mention the host, even the organizers and sponsors knew him. If he wanted to change the position of the award presenter, it would be a matter of minutes." Li Qianxue wasn't one of the spectators who didn't know what was going on. She saw that Wei Ting's expression was a little strange just now. "What did you say to Wei Ting?" "I didn't say anything." "Why? Do you feel sorry for him?" "Su Qinghui, is it interesting?" It wasn't that Su Qinghui couldn't hear the mockery in Li Qianxue's words, but he still nodded seriously. "It's interesting because I don't like him. If you want to give him an award, even if it's just a normal relationship, I'll be jealous." "Crazy." Li Qianxue turned her face away from him. Su Qinghui didn't mind expressing himself more clearly. "Qianxue, don't you understand? Because I love you, no matter what man or what kind of man approaches you, I'll be unhappy. I know that I don't have the right to stop you from accepting a new relationship, but I really can't just watch you get closer and closer to another man, and your relationship gets better and better." "Su Qinghui, I'm afraid you're crazy, right?" "Yes. I'm crazy. I'm crazy for you. Let me remind you, we're already divorced." "Yes. So I'm trying my best to move you now, to let you know and believe in my feelings." Li Qianxue felt that she couldn't communicate with him anymore. At this time, it was Wang Tao's turn to receive the award. Li Qianque's order was changed by Su Qinghui. She got up and went to the stage. Su Qinghui looked at her back, his eyes filled with love. As if sensing his gaze, Li Qianque walked even faster. Su Qinghui was left behind with a bitter smile because of her actions. There was still a long way to go. He would not give up. He would work hard and strive to move her one day. After the award ceremony ended, Li Qianque got up and went to the bathroom. When she came back, she was blocked by Wei Ting. He looked at her, and there was a hint of grievance on his sunny and handsome face. Qianque, do you hate me that much? The corner of Li Qianque's mouth twitched. Wei Ting, what are you doing? Although they were at the corner of the corridor, there might be people passing by. If you don't hate me, why didn't you go on stage and give me the award? Wei Ting, do you know how sad I was when I saw that the person on stage wasn't you? The aggrieved expression on Wei Ting's face became more and more obvious. For a moment, Li Qianque had a feeling that the person in front of her was a child who wanted candy but couldn't get it. I'm really sad. Wei Ting took a step forward to hold her hand. Although the Top 10 Youth Award is not a particularly important award to me, if you were to give me the award at such an important moment, it would definitely make today's time more memorable. Stop. Li Qianque wasn't affected by his words at all. Are you done? No. Wei Ting shook his head. I'm not done. Qianque, I just want to say that you can't treat me like this. Wei Ting, you seem to have made a mistake. What? I don't have that kind of relationship with you, do I? Although we aren't now, we can develop into one in the future. Don't you think so? Wei Ting, isn't it too early for us to discuss this now? It's not early. Let's discuss it slowly. There will be a result soon. Wei Ting seemed to have thought of something and suddenly changed the topic. Don't tell me you still want to get back together with Su Qinghui. Wei Ting, my business with you has nothing to do with Su Qinghui. If you don't want to get back together with him, why do you always reject me? Wei Ting, Li Qianque felt tired explaining her relationship with Su Qinghui. She didn't intend to say more. Anyway, it's impossible for me and Su Qinghui, and it's impossible for me and you. Understand? I don't understand. Wei Ting shook his head. It's impossible for you and Su Qinghui, but Su Qinghui said that you have 2 children. Is there an unbreakable bond between the two of you? Do you know how angry I was when I heard him say that? You can't even be happy after winning an award. Su Qinghui. How could he say such a thing? Li Qianque frowned. Wei Ting, I'm telling you very seriously. You don't have to take what Su Qinghui said to heart. But this only means that I have nothing to do with him and nothing to do with you. It's impossible for me to follow you. So, please make way first. I'm leaving. As she spoke, she walked out. Wei Ting followed behind her with a very aggrieved expression. He wanted to say something several times but hesitated, trying to persuade Li Qianque. However, Li Qianque was unmoved. The two of them walked a little faster. In addition, they were both preoccupied with their own thoughts, so they didn't notice that someone at the door of the bathroom behind the corner had heard their conversation. It was night, at the Luo family in Lin City. What do you mean, really divorced? Luo Qing looked at his son, Luo Lai. For a moment, he didn't understand why Luo Lai told him this. What are you trying to say? I want to say, haven't we heard it before? Li Qianque of the Li family divorced Su Qinghui. It's true. Luo Qing didn't say anything. He had also heard about Su Qinghui and Li Qianque's divorce. However, recently, not only had they worked together on a project, but they were also attending the award ceremony together. Many people from the aristocratic families in Lin City thought that they were probably going to get back together. I used to think it was a rumor, but now I know it's true. And Dad, do you know? I heard it very clearly today. Li Qianxue said that it's impossible for her and Su Qinghui to get back together. What are you trying to say? Luo Qing listened for a long time, but he didn't understand what Luo Lai was trying to say. Luo Yu, who was sitting next to Luo Lai, also looked at Luo Lai in confusion. Yes, brother, what are you trying to say? I want to say that Wei Ting looks too young. Li Qianxue definitely won't choose him. Since Su Qinghui can't get back together with her, it means that Su Qinghui has no chance. This way, they won't have a chance. Dad, won't you have a chance? There was silence in the living room. Luo Qing looked at his son. What do you mean? Dad, you still don't understand. I told you to pursue Li Qianxue, and you'll be with Li Qianxue. Luo Lai. Brother. Two gazes landed on Luo Lai. Luo Lai looked at his father and sister. Dad, Mom has been gone for so many years. You should have found one by now. Isn't this an opportunity just right? Think about it, who is Li Qianxue? The current president of the Li Corporation. She holds nearly half of the Li Corporation's shares. With such astonishing wealth and status, if you really get together with her, wouldn't it be a great thing for us? Luo Lai, Dad, let me finish. In the past, our status in Lin City couldn't compare to the Li family, and there were also a few old families like the Qiu family. Now, ever since that woman, Luo Meishan, offended Hu Jinyao, our family has been in an even worse state. Look, when they were enjoying themselves, we had nothing to do with them. Now that something has happened to them, we're implicated. How can there be such a thing? Luo Lai's words made Luo Qing and Luo Yu fall silent. They were the second family of the Luo family in Lin City. The first family was Luo Ming, who was also Luo Meishan's father. The first family had inherited most of the shares of Luoxing department store. Their status was no longer comparable. Who knew that the first family would be so stupid as to offend a formidable enemy like Hu Jinyao? Now, even if the Tianyu group no longer dealt with them, Luoxing department store had already fallen into the hands of the Tianyu group. Luo Ming had tried to make a comeback several times, but because he had offended Hu Jinyao, almost no one in Lin City dared to help them. Their status was already inferior to the other clans, and now it was even more awkward. As for Luo Ming's younger brother, Luo Cheng's family, they were even more embarrassed. Dad, I've decided that you should pursue Li Qianxue and find a way to be with her. Not only will it solve our family's predicament, but it will also stop the people from Tianyu Group and Hu Jinyao from making things difficult for us. More importantly, we can also get help from the Li family. When that time comes, it will be time for us to stand at the top of Lin City's upper class again. After Luo Lai said this, the living room was silent. Even without him saying it, Luo Qing and Luo Yu knew what the Luo family was like now. However, brother, that's easy for you to say. How could it be so easy to marry the president of the Li group? Can it be more difficult than now? Luo Lai felt that it was possible. Dad, little you, think about it from another perspective. Why did Li Qianxue divorce him? Su Qinghui must have done something to piss him off. Otherwise, why would Li Qianxue say that they had no chance at all? Also, that Wei Ting looks good, but he's too young and doesn't match Li Qianxue. I thought about it for a long time on the way back just now. I really think this plan is very feasible. Luo Qing didn't say anything, but Luo Yu was the first to be moved by him. Brother, what you said is really beneficial. After all, even if we can't borrow the Li family's power, it's equivalent to having one less powerful enemy and one more helper. That's what I mean. As Luo Lai spoke, he glanced at Luo Qing. Besides, Dad, look at you. You don't look any worse than Su Qinghui. Or do you not believe in your own abilities? Of course not. Luo Qing stood up and thought about Luo Lai's words. Okay, let me think about it. How should I pursue Li Qianxue? So that she can give me a chance. Chapter 728. Even if it didn't work out, it wouldn't be bad to leave a good impression in front of Li Qianxue. She was Hu Jiniao's mother-in-law, and he had a good relationship with her. He didn't believe that Hu Jiniao would continue to deal with them. Dad, I also thought of another point. Luo Lai was confident. On the way back, he had already thought of it. Su Qinghui offended Li Qianxue and made her divorce him. To women, it's nothing more than a man spending a lot of time outside or not being gentle and considerate. Dad, after your mother left, you've never accepted a woman approaching you again. In this regard, you're definitely better than other men. As for being gentle and considerate, I believe you can do it too. Luo Qing didn't say anything. Luo Lai looked at him and added, most importantly, Dad, to be honest, you have another advantage, but you're much better than Su Qinghui. What? Su Qinghui has an illegitimate daughter outside. When Luo Lai said this, the smile on his face widened. In that case, it's definitely impossible for him to be as upright and elegant as he appears on the surface. On the contrary, it's very likely that his private life is quite unbearable. That's right. Luo Yu nodded, and her eyes lit up. That Su Qinghui has an illegitimate daughter. I don't know why in the past. Li Qianxue has been suppressing this matter. Now it seems that they must have fallen out for some reason. Luo Qing didn't say anything. He did know that Su Qinghui had an illegitimate daughter. In the upper class, who was really cleaner than the other. However, this was indeed a big deal. At least Luo Qing used to have a good relationship with his wife, and he didn't mess around outside. Thinking of the huge benefits brought by Li Qianxue, and then thinking of Li Qianxue's charming face, Luo Cheng's original 30% interest suddenly turned to 70%. Li Qianxue didn't know that she was being targeted. She was having a headache about how to get rid of Wei Ting, who was almost like a piece of sticky candy. Looking up at Wei Ting, who was sitting opposite her desk, Li Qianxue really felt a headache coming on. Wei Ting, do you know that your behavior has seriously interfered with me? It's okay. You do your thing. I'll do my thing. As Wei Ting spoke, he shook the notebook he brought. Look, I have something to do too. Just do your thing. As he spoke, he got up and walked to the coffee table next to him. It was obvious that he was going to start a fight with Li Qianxue. Li Qianxue's expression was really ugly. She stood up and walked in front of Wei Ting. Wei Ting. Don't worry, I really won't bother you. You've already disturbed me. Li Qianxue was not polite at all. Wei Ting, I don't appreciate your actions. I think there's nothing wrong with a man pursuing a woman he likes, but if he loses his sense of propriety, it will only make people feel disgusted. I don't appreciate your behavior, and I won't change my mind to like you just because of it. On the contrary, your current behavior makes me very uncomfortable. You have seriously affected my private life and my work. I want you to leave now, immediately, immediately. She had been in power for a long time, so she naturally had the aura of being in power. Such righteous words made Wei Ting's expression become a little awkward. Qianxue, I don't care what you think, but I want to tell you that I really don't like what you're doing. Li Qianxue's expression was very cold. Not to mention that we're not boyfriend and girlfriend right now, even if we are, I want to tell you. No matter what kind of relationship it is, we need to have a sense of propriety and distance. If we lose this sense of propriety and distance, it will only make people uncomfortable. Wei Ting's face was a little gloomy. He put away his notebook and stood up. Looking at the anger on Li Qianxue's face, his expression was a little aggrieved. Qianxue, I'm sorry. Li Qianxue didn't say anything. She really couldn't appreciate such behavior, nor could she accept it. I just heard that Su Qinghui's company has a new cooperation with you. Qianxue, I know that you have an inseparable bond with him. I just want to fight for another chance for myself. If you're so obsessed with me, then I can tell you that you won't have any chance at all. Wei Ting's expression was ugly. He looked at Li Qianxue and nodded heavily. Okay, I understand. He stood up straight and walked in front of Li Qianxue. He looked at her and said, Qianxue, I know that in your heart, you might think that I'm not mature enough, not steady enough, and not rational enough. But I still hope you understand. It's precisely because of my sincerity towards you that I lost my steadiness and rationality. I just want to be with you. Seeing that Li Qianxue was about to refuse again, he raised his hand. Qianxue, you don't have to say any more. I'll leave now, but I won't give up. Give me some time. I'll slowly learn how to become a qualified boyfriend who's worthy of you. Li Qianxue looked at Wei Ting, and her heart was still moved. She had once given with passion. She only knew how to give, but she never took. But now, there was a man who used such thoughts to say such words to her. Her expression softened a lot. Li Qianxue's expression was no longer as ugly as before. You can go. Qianxue. I'm going to work. Li Qianxue didn't want to say more. She didn't want to say that there was a man who brought her a trace of warmth after her heart had already turned cold. When Li Qianxue returned home, old Master Li hadn't eaten yet and was waiting for her in the living room. When he saw her enter the door, he waved at her. Dad. Li Qianxue changed her shoes and entered the door. There was some disapproval in her eyes. Didn't I say? Don't wait for me to eat. It's okay. I'm not hungry anyway. Old Master Li wasn't just waiting for Li Qianxue to come back for dinner today. There's something I want to tell you. What is it? Li Qianxue sat on the sofa. It was only then that she saw the gift boxes on the coffee table. Did any guests come? Yes. Old Master Li nodded. That's what I wanted to tell you. He pointed at the gifts on the table and then looked at Li Qianxue. These gifts were all sent by the second son of the Luo family. The Luo family. Li Qianxue thought about it in her mind and remembered who the second son of the Luo family was. You mean Luo Qing? Yes, that's him. Old Master Li nodded. He came to visit with his 2 children today. Although the Luo family is declining now, I used to be friends with his father, so I didn't refuse to see them. Dad, just tell me what it is. I'm not sure. Old Master Li shook his head. They didn't say what it was. They just said that they haven't visited for a long time. So they came to see me. Old Master Li pouted and looked at the gifts on the table. But if they just came to see me, these gifts are a bit heavy. Li Qianxue looked at the gift boxes on the table and thought of the last time the Luo family and the Song family came to visit. Dad, don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you. Yes. Since old Master Li had decided to hand over the company to the next generation, he didn't interfere, so naturally, he didn't know what Ji Niao had done. It's not a big deal anyway. Don't take it to heart. Li Qianxue decided to call Wang Tao tomorrow and ask if the Luo family had done anything recently. Or if they had done something to provoke Tianyu group again. Li Qianxue's question didn't get an answer. The next day, she asked someone to investigate the Luo family. Last time, Luo Ming had already asked someone to mediate. Although the current Luoxing department store hadn't improved, it was obviously much better than when Hu Jinyao had just attacked it, and it didn't even have a foothold in Lin City. Li Qianquo's people didn't dig up any more information. After investigating, they only found that Luo Cheng's family and Luo Ming's family didn't seem to reach an agreement because of the direction of the new company. So what did Luo Cheng want through her? Li Qianquo couldn't figure it out, but soon she saw Luo Cheng in person. When Su Qinghui entered the exhibition center, someone familiar came over to greet him. Not many people in Lin City knew that he and Li Qianquo had divorced, but there were also many people who laughed at him. Many people guessed the reason why he had divorced Li Qianquo. In the past year, he had seen a lot of sour words, mocking words, and cold faces. However, his ability was there. In such a short period of time, he had established Qianhui Company, and then worked hard to manage it for more than a year. Recently, he had even started to cooperate with the Li family. Those people seemed to have just realized that the wind wasn't blowing in the right direction. There were many more people looking for Su Qinghui than when they first arrived. In addition, some people didn't understand what had happened. They saw that Qianhui Company was still working with the Li family. They thought that the relationship between the two of them had recovered. President Su, President Li is over there. Not only did someone greet him, but someone also told him where Li Qianquo was. Thank you. Su Qinghui saw Li Qianquo as soon as he entered the venue. After all, a woman like Li Qianquo, who was both imposing and beautiful, was quite eye-catching in this venue. He took the register in his hand and headed in Li Qianquo's direction. Li Qianquo sat there and flipped through the register in her hand. This was a small auction. Although the auction items weren't as rich as Christie's, there were still some good things that weren't usually revealed. Li Qianquo wasn't very interested in the first few items. However, there was a small jade Buddha at the back. She thought it was pretty good. Her aunt, the grand-aunt of the Li family, was celebrating her birthday next week. She had always believed in Buddhism, so it was just right to buy such a Buddha for her. There was also a set of jewelry at the back. She would bid for it and give it to Su Qingsang. She sensed that someone was sitting beside her, but she didn't notice until, Ms. Li, this was a form of address used by people in the business world other than business partners. She turned her head and saw Luo Qing sitting next to her. Hello, Mr. Luo. You're welcome. Just call me Luo Qing. Luo Qing smiled. After all, we're of the same generation. There's no need to be so polite. Li Qianquo didn't respond to him. She calmly closed the booklet. Mr. Luo came to visit and gave me a very generous gift. May I know what Mr. Luo's intentions are? Ms. Li, you don't have to be so wary. It's just a small gift. Li Qianquo's expression didn't change. I know very well how difficult it is to find 100-year-old ginseng. If such a gift is called a small gift, then I really don't know what a big gift is. Ms. Li, if you have something to say, just say it. For old Master Luo's sake, I will definitely help if I can. Ms. Li, why do you insist that I have a request? Maybe I just want to ease my relationship with the Li family. Then there's no need. There's no such thing as easing your relationship with the Li family. Ms. Li Qianquo. Su Qinghui's voice sounded. He was standing in front of Li Qianquo. What a coincidence. Li Qianquo's fingertips tightened on the booklet. She looked at Su Qinghui with an ugly expression. Is it a coincidence? For such a small auction, the people who came were all invited in. The number of places was limited, and the people who came were all well known in Lin City. Although, she glanced at Luo Qing and didn't understand why he was here. However, Su Qinghui's appearance here was not a coincidence at all. It's quite a coincidence. As Su Qinghui spoke, he took a step forward and was about to sit down beside her. When he saw Luo Qing, he seemed to have just discovered him. So it's President Luo. Do you have something to discuss with Qianxue? Luo Qing looked at the intimacy between Su Qinghui and Li Qianxue and thought about what his son had said. No matter how he looked at it, the two of them didn't look like they were divorced. When he came back to his senses, he cleared his throat. Yes, there's a small matter that I need to discuss with President Li. In just a moment, the way he addressed him changed again. Su Qinghui acted as if he didn't notice and looked in the direction of the stage. Although it's very rude to say this, the auction is about to begin. President Luo, why don't you come back after the auction is over? Okay. With Su Qinghui here, he couldn't say anything even if he wanted to. Luo Qing stood up and returned to his seat at the back to sit down. Li Qianxue glanced at Su Qinghui coldly. I don't know when you became my spokesperson. Of course not. Su Qinghui shook his head. I just feel that you don't seem to want to be polite with him here. She really didn't want to be polite with Luo Qing. It was too exaggerated to give that century-old ginseng as a normal gift to old Master Li. She had no doubt that Luo Qing had other intentions. But she didn't need Su Qinghui to help her out. I can solve it myself. Li Qianxue resisted the urge to get up. Su Qinghui, I don't need you to meddle. Okay. Just take it that I'm meddling. Su Qinghui didn't say much, but he didn't miss Luo Qing's gaze just now. It was clear that a man was interested in a woman. Luo Qing had feelings for Li Qianxue. He was suddenly sure of this. His mood inexplicably became very gloomy. However, Luo Qing didn't have much interaction with Li Qianxue in the past. Why would he show such a gaze? What exactly happened here? Chapter 729. Su Qinghui looked at Li Qianxue. The words that he was about to say turned into concern. Qianxue, Luo Qing doesn't have good intentions. I have a feeling that he must have some ulterior motive. It made him feel that something was not right for them to come knocking on his door. How could Li Qianxue not know that Luo Qing's motives were not pure? She didn't think she needed Su Qinghui to remind her. Su Qinghui, I'm not a 3-year-old. I don't need you to teach me how to do things, let alone how to look at people. Silence. Su Qinghui looked at her cold profile and said in a soft voice, I don't mean to teach you. I just care about you. Thank you. Li Qianxue reopened the register. But I don't need it. She didn't need Su Qinghui's care. The auction soon began. Li Qianxue didn't look at Su Qinghui. Although he wasn't very interested in the items on the stage, he focused all his attention on them. Finally, it was the jade Buddha that she wanted to buy for Aunt Li. Although the jade Buddha was from the modern era, the jade was not bad, and the carving skills were good. The starting bid was not expensive either, starting at 1 million. Every time he added 100,000. Li Qianxue raised the sign after someone raised it once. The price of a modern jade Buddha statue was not considered expensive. However, when Li Qianxue raised it for the 3rd time, Su Qinghui followed suit. Li Qianxue couldn't help but glance at him. After being married for so many years, she could almost tell what Su Qinghui was thinking. With her brows furrowed tightly, Li Qianxue raised her card again. At this time, the price of the jade Buddha had already reached 1.8 million. This price is about right. However, as soon as Li Qianxue put down the sign, someone behind her directly offered 2 million yuan. The voice was a little familiar. Li Qianxue looked behind her. There weren't many people who came to participate today. She saw Luo Qing behind her at a glance. If this was what he liked, then she would give it to him. After all, she was just buying it as a gift. She could change it. She stopped raising her placard, but Su Qinghui raised it again. This time, it was 3 million. Luo Qing immediately followed and bid 4 million. Without batting an eyelid, Su Qinghui made a bid of 6 million. Whispers could be heard in the hall. Many people saw the two of them fighting over a jade Buddha statue that wasn't worth much, and they didn't know what was going on. Someone looked at the roster again, thinking that he had missed something. 8 million. Luo Qing also raised the price by 200,000. 3 million. When Su Qinghui raised the paddle again, Li Qianxue couldn't help but turn around to look at him. What are you doing? Don't you like it? I'll buy it and give it to you. Li Qianxue was so angry that she almost laughed. This man was really enough. Who needs you to send me off? Do you think I can't afford it? No. Su Qinghui shook his head. I just want to make you happy. Su Qinghui was about to raise his paddle when Li Qianxue grabbed his hand. Su Qinghui, that's enough. She only wanted to buy it as a gift. She didn't really like it that much. She didn't need him to send her off. Wait a moment. Su Qinghui avoided her hand and raised his card again. 6 million. Su Qinghui. Li Qianxue was speechless. What on earth was this man trying to do? Did he think that she would be touched by him doing this? Luo Qing, who was behind her, raised the price again. 8 million. When Su Qinghui raised his hand again, Li Qianxue pressed it back hard. That's enough. Don't bid anymore. I won't take it even if you bid. This wasn't what she wanted. Su Qinghui didn't raise his paddle again. He looked at Li Qianxue's enlarged face in front of him. There was a hint of anger in her eyes, as well as some emotions that he couldn't see clearly for a moment. He wasn't in a hurry to investigate. Instead, he glanced at Li Qianxue's hand that was on his hand. Unlike when she was tugging at his sleeve just now, Li Qianxue's entire hand was on the back of his hand. He could feel her soft and slender palm exerting force. He raised his head and met Li Qianxue's gaze. The distance between the two of them was very close, so close that Su Qinghui couldn't help but tilt his face slightly, realizing that she had been taken advantage of. The anger in Li Qianxue's eyes became even more obvious. A flash of cunning flashed across Su Qinghui's face. Yes. Since Qianxue said that she won't let me buy it, then I won't buy it. It was just a jade Buddha statue. If Li Qianxue liked it, he would find a better one for her next time. Su Qinghui, Li Qianxue gritted her teeth. This bastard, how dare he do such an outrageous thing to her in such a place and on such an occasion? Yes. Su Qinghui smiled and moved his face closer. Okay, I'll listen to you. Luo Qing, who was behind him, had already bought the jade Buddha statue for 8 million yuan. There are still many treasures below. Qianxue, why don't you see what's good? I'll buy it if you say so. How about that? Su Qinghui didn't mean to flatter Li Qianxue at all. Li Qianxue came from a well-educated family and was extremely wealthy. She knew the value of collectibles and the trend of appreciation very well. Su Qinghui, just you wait. Li Qianxue wasn't as thick-skinned as him, and it was impossible for her to lose her temper in public. She could only let it go. Okay, I'll wait. Su Qinghui smiled, and there was obvious joy in his eyes. Although it was just a touch, it was still a kiss, right? There was progress. Not bad. Continue to work hard. Next, another auction item was auctioned. Li Qianxue resisted the urge to leave. She retreated and stopped looking at Su Qinghui. Until the end of the auction, Li Qianxue didn't see anything else she wanted. She couldn't wait to stand up and leave as soon as the auction ended. However, she was blocked by someone at the exit. Luo Qing looked at Li Qianxue with a bright smile on his face. "President Li, are you leaving?" "Yes." Li Qianxue nodded. She was indeed planning to leave. "Since President Li is leaving, please take this with you." As he spoke, Luo Qing raised the box in his hand. Li Qianxue already knew what he was talking about and what was inside. "President Luo, what do you mean?" "Nothing much. Since you like it, I bought it for you. It wasn't something valuable either. Just accept it for fun." Li Qianxue didn't take the box he handed over. She took a small step back. "President Luo, I think you might have misunderstood. I don't like this jade Buddha that much. If President Luo needs any help from me or the Li Corporation, you can make an appointment with my secretary tomorrow morning. What do you think?" "President Li, don't misunderstand. I really don't mean anything else. I just saw that you seemed to like it, so I wanted to buy it for you." "President Luo, you're too polite. I really don't need it. Thank you." Li Qianxue was about to leave after saying that. Luo Qing didn't give up. He took another step forward and blocked Li Qianxue's path. This action made Li Qianxue extremely unhappy. It had been a long time since anyone dared to do this. Before she could react, a hand suddenly appeared on her shoulder. Su Qinghui had arrived at some point and was standing beside her. His hand was holding her shoulder. Li Qianxue's body stiffened for a moment. She wanted to break free from his hand. However, Su Qinghui hugged her shoulder even tighter. "Qianxue, didn't you say that you're going to eat Japanese food tonight? I've already booked the place. Let's go." When he spoke, his entire body was facing Li Qianxue. The distance between the two of them was very close. It gave people the feeling that he wanted to kiss her. Li Qianxue didn't expect him to dare to come again. Her expression was very ugly. From the corner of her eye, she saw the figures walking around. She didn't flare up on the spot. However, the gaze she looked at Su Qinghui could almost kill. Su Qinghui wasn't anxious when he saw the anger in her eyes. Instead, he turned to look at President Luo. "What a coincidence, President Luo is here too. I'm sorry, I didn't see you just now." "It's okay." How could Luo Qing not see that Su Qinghui did it on purpose? He forced himself to calm down. "President Su, I made an appointment with Qianxue to eat Japanese food together. By the way, President Luo, is there anything you need? If there's nothing else, then we'll take our leave first." Luo Qing knew that he had already lost the best opportunity today. He took a step back and looked at Su Qinghui with an unclear expression. "It's nothing, President Su." "Okay. Then we'll leave first." Su Qinghui held Li Qianxue's shoulder and walked out. Just as Li Qianxue was about to break free, he moved his face closer to her. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Or would you rather go back and pester him? It has nothing to do with you, Su Qinghui. Let go. My heart will ache. Su Qinghui led her all the way outside. That kind of person isn't worth your trouble. Tomorrow, I'll get someone to investigate what he's thinking. Li Qianxue was actually thinking about this problem. Luo Qing was fine, but he gave her ginseng and jade Buddha statues. What was he trying to do? While she was thinking seriously, she didn't notice that she had already been led away by Su Qinghui. Su Qinghui took her all the way to the place where he parked his car, opened the door, and let her get in. "All right. Since you can't figure it out, don't think about it. I believe that there will be a time when he reveals a flaw. That was true, but Li Qianxue didn't like this feeling. She had always liked to control everything in her own hands, no matter what it was. I said, I'll get someone to investigate tomorrow. Find out what his purpose is. Don't worry too much. For the time being, I believe that he won't dare to do anything. Who was worried? Who was she? She was Li Qianxue. She wasn't worried. Li Qianxue was just about to refute when she realized that she was actually sitting in Su Qinghui's car. When did she get in? Let's go. A smile flashed across Su Qinghui's eyes. Let's go eat. Su Qinghui. Li Qianxue glared at him. Who wants to eat with you? Didn't we just agree to eat Japanese food? That's what you said, not what I said. Yes. I said it. Su Qinghui didn't deny it. But, you didn't refuse. Alright, this shop is not bad. The boss's Japanese food is very authentic. I really made a reservation. Let's go. Li Qianxue looked at his side profile, who was focused on driving, and suddenly snorted. Su Qinghui, what are you doing? Do you think that if you do this, I will soften my heart and accept you? You think too little of me. No. I didn't mean that. There happened to be a red light ahead. Su Qinghui turned his face to look at her, his expression focused and serious. I just want to have a meal with you. I just think that the Japanese restaurant is good and want to invite you to try it. Of course, he did have a purpose. First, he didn't have the chance to see Li Qianxue recently. He really wanted to be with her. Second, he wanted to appear in front of her from time to time and make his presence known in front of her. He would work hard to let her slowly get used to him and accept him again. The latter one was a long road ahead. However, the former one could be achieved first. It's just a meal, Qianxue. That Japanese restaurant is really good. Believe me. Li Qianxue didn't say anything. What else could she say now? She was already in Su Qinghui's car. However, she made a mental note of Su Qinghui. Half an hour later, Li Qianxue and Su Qinghui arrived at the Japanese restaurant he mentioned. It was a very Japanese-style storefront. Li Qianxue thought that Su Qinghui was just saying that he wanted to book a seat, but she didn't expect it to be true. They entered the private room and sat down on the tatami. The waiter in a kimono came over with the menu. He gestured for the two of them to order. Today's caviar is very fresh. Do you want one? Su Qinghui looked at Li Qianxue with a solicitous gaze. Their sashimi is also very good. You can try it. Li Qianxue didn't respond to him, but Su Qinghui wasn't annoyed. He ordered the meal according to her usual habits and preferences. During the whole process, Li Qianxue sat there without moving at all. After the waiter left, she finally looked at Su Qinghui. You said that Luo Qing was unaccountably solicitous, so he must have ulterior motives. What about you? Su Qinghui. Qianxue, he has ulterior motives. You're not much different. No, I don't have a motive. You don't have a motive. If you don't have a motive, you brought me here against my will. Is treating you to a meal considered a motive? Is letting you taste delicious food considered a motive? Otherwise. Li Qianxue was quite impolite. Su Qinghui, in my opinion, you're the same as Luo Qing. It's different. Su Qinghui shook his head. I'm more sincere than him. Unfortunately, I don't believe it. Qianxue, I know you won't believe me, but it doesn't matter. One day, I believe you will believe me. It didn't matter if you didn't believe it. Time would prove everything. Li Qianxue sat motionless. Her expression was quite cold, and her whole person revealed an aura that rejected him 1,000 miles away. Today's events were not within her expectations. Su Qinghui had kissed her and brought her here. She should be angry, and she had the right to be angry. But now, she realized that apart from being angry, she did feel a trace of unspeakable gratitude towards him. After all, compared to Luo Qing, it was much easier to endure being with Su Qinghui. Of course, she wouldn't be with Luo Qing. But just now, she really didn't want to tolerate Luo Qing anymore. Chapter 730. The private room was very quiet. Li Qianxue sat there, her expression not very good. She realized something. What Su Qinghui had done today had hurt her. Regardless of whether it was the kiss that ended as soon as they touched, or the one that brought her here. Not only did she not resist, but she also followed Su Qinghui here. Li Qianxue, are you crazy? Have you really forgotten everything that happened to you? Have you really forgotten how you spent the past 20 years? How could you forget? How could you forget? What happened? Su Qinghui noticed that Li Qianxue didn't look too good. He picked up the teapot on the table and poured a cup of tea for her. Try the tea leaves here. They taste pretty good. Li Qianxue looked at the steaming hot tea in front of her. She stood up from the tatami and planned to leave. Qianxue. Su Qinghui didn't understand what was going on. He didn't understand why Li Qianxue's face suddenly changed. Li Qianxue's footsteps were a little fast. She naturally couldn't eat the Japanese food in front of her. Just as he pulled open the sliding door, the waiter just happened to make a gesture to pull the door. Behind this waiter were several other waiters with trays in their hands. Qianxue, if there's anything, let's eat first. Su Qinghui stood up and reached out to hold Li Qianxue's hand. Li Qianxue broke free from his hand and took a step to the side. It was also at this step that the door was opened. The waiters filed in and began to serve the dishes. The sashimi here is really good. You'll know once you taste it. I don't want to eat anymore. Compared to eating, Li Qianxue didn't want to see Su Qinghui. The waiter placed the food on the tray on the table and then left quietly. Su Qinghui took a step forward and blocked her way. Do you not want to eat, or do you not want to see me? I'm glad that you have such foresight. I really don't want to see you. Li Qianxue's voice was full of sarcasm. Hearing that, Su Qinghui didn't get angry. His expression didn't even change. Fine. If you don't want to see me, let's go eat. I'll take you home after dinner. Su Qinghui, do you not understand human language? I said I don't want to see you. I know. You don't have to see me when you go home after dinner. As Su Qinghui spoke, he took her hand and walked back to the tatami mat. Su Qinghui, regarding the city star, I have some more ideas after coming back from this business trip. Since I'm free today, let's exchange some pointers. Li Qianxue stood still, and the expression on her face finally changed a little. What are you doing? Do you think I will be soft-hearted by this? I didn't say that. I just wanted to tell you what I think. Or do you not want to know? In the end, Li Qianxue was convinced by Su Qinghui. She sat down again. Su Qinghui didn't smile proudly because she stayed. He very attentively rearranged the tableware for Li Qianxue, then placed the chopsticks in front of Li Qianxue. Try it. It's really good. Li Qianxue looked at the chopsticks he handed over and finally took them. Didn't you say that city star, Qianxue, even if you have something you want to know, you have to let me eat first, right? Su Qinghui smiled. I'm really hungry. After he said that, Li Qianxue didn't say anything else. She ate quietly. After the food entered her mouth, she realized that Su Qinghui's introduction was right. The fish fillets inside were indeed very tasty. The meal was very quiet. Li Qianxue forced herself to focus on the food instead of looking at Su Qinghui. After the meal, Su Qinghui didn't say anything about City Star. When Li Qianxue was about to lose her patience, Su Qinghui finally spoke. The first thing he said was, "Qianxue, what stage do you want City Star to reach? How far could the City Star go?" Li Qianxue might be willful, or she might hate Su Qinghui, but she would never joke about work. She sat there without moving, waiting to hear Su Qinghui's new ideas. Time passed like this for half an hour. Li Qianxue originally wanted to leave, but now, she completely calmed down. She looked at Su Qinghui and had to admit that this person was talented in his work. "That's a good idea." "Yes, I think it's good too." Su Qinghui nodded and looked at Li Qianxue. "Then let's work hard together." "Work hard together." Li Qianxue looked at Su Qinghui. In the end, she didn't refute his words. There was a sense of familiarity that she hadn't felt for a long time. It was as if she had returned to the past, when she and Su Qinghui worked hard together. At that time, even if there was no love, Li Qianxue retracted her thoughts and refused to think about it anymore. Some things were no longer the same. In the following period of time, Li Qianxue and Su Qinghui both became busy. Su Qinghui's Qianhui company's performance was booming. Speaking of which, it wasn't easy. Li Qianxue was much busier than him. The two of them were busy with their own things, but their communication didn't decrease. Su Qinghui would come to the Li Corporation to look for Li Qianxue when he had nothing to do and tell her about City Star. It wasn't just about City Star that the two of them had to discuss. Occasionally, when Li Qianxue encountered some business matters, Su Qinghui would also give his opinion. He had worked in the Li Corporation for such a long time that he had a detailed understanding of the Li Corporation, the employees below, and even the people who had dealings with the Li Corporation. Even if Li Qianxue didn't want to admit it, some of his ideas made him feel good. Under such circumstances, City Star was carried out in an orderly manner. Li Qianxue would occasionally go to the construction site to inspect it. It wasn't that the Li Corporation hadn't built larger buildings before. But this one was especially different. Li Qianxue didn't think about why it was different. She just wanted to do her best in this project. Su Qinghui closed the blueprint in his hand and looked away from the building in front of him. He put away the blueprint and was about to leave when footsteps followed behind him. "President Su." "Yes." Su Qinghui looked at the person who had come. It was his secretary, Qiao Ran. "President Su, I've already found out about the matter you asked me to investigate last time." "What?" "It's about the Luo family." Qiao Ran didn't seem to understand why Su Qinghui didn't seem to remember. It wasn't that Su Qinghui didn't remember. It was just that in the past few days, he had finally managed to get Li Qianxue's attention through work. He was so happy that he naturally forgot about a small fry like Luo Qing. "Yes, what's the situation? Tell me." Su Qinghui followed Qiao Ran to the direction of his car. Qiao Ran followed behind him and didn't stop reporting. Luo Qing and Luo Ming originally ran Star Luo department store together. Later, Luo Ming's wife offended President He, so in the past 2 years, President He bought Star Luo department store. The two brothers decided to use their connections to do something else, but Luo Ming and Luo Qing had a disagreement. Luo Ming thought that they should start running Star Luo department store again. After all, they still had their original foundation. But Luo Qing didn't agree. Su Qinghui suddenly knocked on his knee. Why didn't he agree? Although Luo Qing isn't famous, he still has some tricks up his sleeve. He loves to take risks and can be considered impulsive. Although he's old, he's even more hot-blooded. He thought that since Hu Jinyao didn't deal with them anymore, it was naturally a chance to show off and start over in Lin City. Yes, that's it. That's simple. Yes, that's it, but I also asked about another situation. I think that's the reason why Luo Qing took over President Li. What? Luo Qing seems to have come up with a very good plan. He said that he wanted to compete with Luo Ming. I think he probably wants to see how far he can go without the Luo family, right? Xiao Ran didn't say the rest, but Su Qinghui understood what he meant. Are you trying to say that he wants Chen Xue to invest in him? It's possible. After all, the Li family can be considered the largest investor in Lin City now. They were also the most confident investor. There was no big problem with what Xiao Ran said, so the rest of the situation made sense. However, Su Qinghui also believed in another thing. Other than business, Luo Qing was probably the same as him. He had some other thoughts about Li Qinxue. If he succeeded, then Luo Qing would get an investment. If he didn't succeed, then Luo Qing could use this opportunity to get close to Li Qinxue. No matter which one it was, he wouldn't lose out. Su Qinghui's expression didn't look too good. From the looks of it, he really had a good plan. President Su. Let's go. Let's go back first. Su Qinghui knew that he didn't have the right to stop Luo Cheng's actions. But he was just unhappy. He was very unhappy. Luo Qing, President Su. Xiao Ran got into the car and found Su Qinghui in a daze. He called out to him with some concern. Su Qinghui came back to his senses and looked at the street outside the car window. Don't go back to the company. Go to the Li Corporation. Li Qinxue closed the documents in front of her and packed her things. Yang Rong's voice sounded outside, saying that Luo Qing had come to visit. It had been almost a week since Luo Qing bid for the jade and said that he would give it to her. Because Li Qinxue was busy with the company's matters, she really forgot how to get someone to investigate what difficulties Luo Qing had encountered. After thinking for a while, Li Qinxue still let him in. President Luo, what's the matter? Luo Qing entered the door with a very proper and sincere smile on his face. Can't I come to see you if I have nothing to do? He saw that Li Qinxue's expression wasn't very good, as if she couldn't accept such a joke. He raised his hand. All right, I do have something to talk to you about. Li Qinxue's expression relaxed a little. When Luo Qing gave her the generous gift, she had already guessed that Luo Qing should have a request. And now that he came looking for her directly, she heaved a sigh of relief. At least she didn't have to worry about guessing what he wanted to do. She asked the secretary to pour 2 cups of tea and glanced at Luo Qing. You don't mind drinking tea, right? You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.